We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're going to open with devotion, District 1.
Yep. This month we have Brother Bobby Morris from my home church of Castle Springs Methodist Church. Come on up, Bobby. Yeah, you can just go to the podium or stand wherever you want to. It doesn't matter.
Good morning. I appreciate and am thankful for an opportunity to be here. Can we go to the Lord in prayer this morning? Yeah. Father in heaven, we thank you, God, for the gift of this new day. And Lord, I thank you so much for the work that you have called this board to. And God, I trust in you, and we trust in you, that you would give them the strength and the wisdom to do all the things that lay before them. Lord, help us and bless us in these days, God, that we might live in a way that pleases you. Lord, strengthen us and encourage us. Father, guide us and keep us. And Lord, we'll give you the praise for all that comes. And it's in the name of Jesus that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I'd like to share just a little piece of scripture with you this morning, and I pray that it would encourage your heart. And it's from the book of Galatians, the 6th chapter. And through the inspiration of the Spirit, Paul writes this. He says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. For he who sows to the flesh will to the flesh reap corruption. But he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life. And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith." May God bless the reading and the hearing of his word. It seems to me a lot of times we hear scripture and we get little pieces and parts, and this is one of those places where we hear the piece and the part a lot. We hear the scripture, the one verse that God is not mocked. And over the past few weeks, I've heard all the Facebook theologians and the YouTube theologians, and they throw in this scripture around a whole lot. God is not mocked. And that's very true. But the reality here is that along with that truth, there is a greater truth that the apostle to the Gentiles may have hoped that the church at Galatia would see. And I would submit to you that he hopes that we will see. God is not mocked. And whatever we reap, we'll sow. And if we sow to the flesh, we will reap the corruption of the flesh. And God will take care of that. Let us do good. In the world that we live, there's a lot of bad, and there's a lot of bad that's being called good and good that's being called bad. And those of us who go about trying to do good, when we see that it seems as though the bad is always overcoming the good, we can start to think that it's all right to do bad as long as our motive or the outcome that we hope to achieve is good. But Paul says, do good. Don't worry about the bad. God will deal with the bad. As much as it is up to you, do good. And I think that's the message for us all. So I would challenge every one of us today in all of our business and in all of our dealings. Do good. God will sort the rest out. I want you to be blessed today. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you, lift his countenance towards you, and give you peace. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Bobby.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we've got a presentation of appreciation by the Goshen Mullet Festival.
Good morning. It's my pleasure and honor to be here to make a presentation, but also to give you a very brief kind of a status report. The Gaucher Mullet and Music Festival has been around for like 32 years. We fell on some hard times about 5 years ago, and it almost disappeared. A group of us got together, and with help of a lot of individuals in Gaucher and Jackson County, including yourselves, we put it back together, and we're going strong again. And we just wanted to show a little bit of appreciation for all your support. You know, our organization is 100% volunteer. Not 1 cent goes into anybody's pocket. We have costs to put on this festival. It's a win-win festival for the county and the residents and our visitors that come in. And by having this festival, we have a nice family-oriented day of fun and enjoyment that we get 4,000 to 5,000 people come out to see. And we also make a little bit of money, and then all that money is plowed right back into our community. And I just wanted to give y'all an idea of, y'all probably haven't heard exactly where all that goes. Over the last 3 years, we have been able to donate $32,000 back to charitable organizations in our community. And I'm just gonna read real quick. This year, money has gone to the Jackson County Animal Shelter, the Jackson County CASA, Sue's Home, Backpack for Buddies, which is a children's food program, the school kids, the food pantry, the Volunteers in Medicine, a great organization that donate to doctors and nurses, donate their time for people that don't have insurance coverage, Adrian's House, and of course Home of Grace. Most of these places are organizations that help people in need. They're safe havens in many places for families that have nowhere to go. So it's our pleasure to be able to put on this festival, and with the donations we get from our sponsor, and especially the sponsorship of Jackson County, that pays for all the cost. We have a lot of cost for all the activities we put on for the families and the kids. But it allows us to take all of our monies that we make through our arts and crafts sales booths and fees and our food vendor fees and et cetera. Everything we make, we can then plow back into the community. And one of the reasons we can do that is because of your generosity in helping us out. So with that, we would like to present to you one of the things we do at the festival is we support arts and crafts. We have an art contest. We had 11 artists compete this year, and this is the winning poster for the festival this year. We'd like to present this to Jackson County Board of Supervisors, and hopefully have some place here you can display it.
It's pretty neat. It's a good looking picture.
Hey, let's go down and take a picture.
Yeah, let's go.
Y'all come see us October 19th. Thank y'all again.
Amendments to the agenda, Mr. Cumbus,
I don't have any.
Mr. Morris.
I don't have any.
Mr. Taylor.
No, sir, have none.
I don't have any. Mr. Bossarge. Chancery Clerk.
None.
County Administrator.
No.
Road Manager.
None.
Board Attorney.
None.
Any other amendments to the agenda? All right, any other?
I don't have any.
Wow, that was a clean sweep. That's pretty good. All right. So we don't need to make a motion to approve that. Wow, that doesn't happen very often at all.
Good to go.
All right, that brings us to general public comment. Anybody here for general public comment? Well, we might be on a path to a fast meeting.
Yeah.
That brings us to consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. We got a motion by Mr. Compass.
Second.
Second by Mr. Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, I'm on. Yeah. Joey.
This brings us to consent
let the record
agenda
show
2.
I accused myself.
Mr. Compass is going to go out for a minute. All right. Do you need to go over anything, or do we just need a resolution authorizing acquisition of property for Jim Ramsey Road, Old Fort Bayou Road intersection project? All right. All right, do we have a motion? We've got a motion by Mr. Bossarge. Second by Mr. Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Cumbus is back. County Administrator?
Yes, the item I have is a discussion regarding housing of municipal prisoners. That's something that we've talked about here in the last couple of meetings, and more recently, last week actually, we met with the city of Pascagoula about that, and they were suggesting that we might consider a lower rate than what we had initially thought. When we looked, just in general, it really depends on how many prisoners you have in the jail at one time, but the costs are anywhere from $70 to $90, and it averages out probably about $80 per prisoner per day. And so that's what we had recommended putting in the agreement with the cities to cover their prisoners, which are only in there a few days until they are able to see a judge. And so that's kind of where we are. And I guess it's up to the board to decide, if we want to stay with the $80 rate, or if we want to consider something less than that. The current rate is a good bit less than that, but we haven't adjusted those in many, many years. So,
just for the audience, what are we charging right now?
is it
$35.
$35?
35, which is probably about 20 to 30 lower than what, if the jail were full, would be going market rate with a full capacity jail.
There's some data out there. We found a peer report that was done, I believe, by the legislature a few years ago, and it suggests that, and this is kind of a model facility. It's not based on our size, but a model facility with 1,000 inmates being run efficiently should cost anywhere from like $59 to $60 per inmate per day, but that cost did not include debt or the facility, actually, any debt that we have. And as y'all know, we still owe several more years, 10 years or more, to pay off the jail. So we do have that cost, and that cost is figured into the $80 a day that we are paying to house the prisoners.
I know Mr. Morris and I sat in on the meeting, and I thought it was a pretty good meeting, really. We talked about a lot of things, talked about a lot that we do for the city of Pascagoula. And I know at one point I asked them what they thought they could stand, so to speak, and I knew that answer was going to be cheap, so to speak, but he come back at 45, and I knew that would be low. But, and I just got to think about it, if we want to extend an olive branch, we want to come down some, just to help, but that's strictly up to this board, I told him I knew it wouldn't ever be that low, but.
Right.
Hey, Troy, the sheriff and the chiefs here, I'd like to hear from them on their views on this too.
And, some of this, and like you said, having some type of a middle ground here, I think makes sense, because like $59, $60 per bed on a facility with 1,000, where we've got the issue is we've actually built a facility that's going to be suitable and sized large enough for our county for probably the next 30, 40, 50 years. So our capacity is not even at 50%. So that means the fixed cost of a facility that size is going to drive the daily cost up more than if we had more prisoners in there. Then the daily cost would come down, but the overall cost would be up, but per inmate it would be lower. So that's why we've got inflated numbers on this if you actually went to what it would cost to operate the facility. Because we built something that's gonna be good for 50 years or 60 years or maybe longer.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the other piece of it is that, you know, the first interlocal we look back on keeping inmates, I think that Jimmy found was 24 years ago. So I think anytime you don't raise something for 10, 20 years, they go, whoa, that's a big jump. But, I mean, inflation's been a lot, and, you know, I agree, we gotta find some type of middle ground so it ain't all at one time. But,
John, you want to kick in?
Yeah, Mr. Ross, can I make a, can I kind of put the issues out here? Because we've had a lot of discussions. Mr. Fulton had mentioned what is a fair rate to reimburse the county for its cost or part of its cost. The second issue that we've batted around is how long does a prisoner remain a municipal prisoner? Because there is law that allows that to be extended much farther than we do, but that was kind of batted around a little bit. And then a third issue that came up is the releasing of bonding of prisoners in Pascagoula out of the ADC. Regardless of what city they come from, they walk out the ADC into Pascagoula. And there was an issue brought up about could we, and Sheriff, I don't think we talked about this, could we make them bond out of whatever city they were arrested in? And we've got 4 different agreements with the cities. All of them, the price is all the same. The language of how long they stay municipal prisoners is all the same. But they have different ending dates, they have a little bit different language. I would like to be able to standardize these amongst all 4 cities, and that's kind of where we are. So those are kind of some of the issues that we've batted around, the policy discussions that you gentlemen need to have and come up with an answer and how we want to do this.
Yeah.
Good morning. I've sent an email, and I think I've gathered the information and emailed it to Josh and to Jimmy. And the email I sent out was to everyone in the Sheriff's Association, all the sheriffs in Mississippi, requesting their amount that they house per day per prisoner for their municipalities. And it ranged, I think the lowest one was Tunica County at $6, which typically the lower end of the majority of the other counties was about $20, to include Madison and counties like Jasper. The highest that I've seen statewide for city prisoners is $55 a day, and that's Lafayette County in Oxford. And even our next door neighbor, Harrison County, their average or their daily per prisoner rate is $30 at this time. I think Forest County was moving from $42 a day to $50 a day. So you look around the state and you see so many variants from the high end to the low end, which if we were to implement $80 per day, we'd by far be the highest in the state to house city prisoners from our own county.
Did you get the information like
I got it.
what the capacities were of those, like how full were those jails?
I didn't get the jails population.
They were probably virtually
Now, since we
full.
first started collecting this information, our average daily census was around 300. As of this morning, we had 374, which summertime, we picked up
A lot
our
of
daily
what caused
census.
ours to be reflected higher would be because we've got a jail with much more capacity and room.
Yeah.
Whereas most of those other jails are probably older jails, and they're probably virtually full to capacity. So they're gonna have a bigger number of inmates to spread the price among, and they're gonna have no bond payment on the jail most likely. So I mean, that's gonna cause a reflection of ours. Are any of those jails newer than ours?
That I don't know. I know a lot of them are smaller.
yeah. And
Some
then
of them
there's
are
a lot-
larger. Harrison
a lot
County's
of
much
different
larger.
terms. How the contract written makes so much difference, because some of them will say, all right, it's so much per day, but then you gotta include the medication and things like, you know, where we're already paying for medication and like, right, we have a medical company hired out there that does mental health treatment. I mean, there's just so many different terms in the contract. How long is a municipal prisoner? A municipal prisoner, for instance, you know, we move them over pretty quickly to be considered county inmates. So that's why when you look at it, I mean, what we charge in municipal payments is a few $100,000 a year compared to, it's a $10 million budget. It's because as soon as they're bound over, we consider them county inmates, and the law, I think, varies there. So there's a whole lot of different factors in the contract, but John did a good job reaching out and kind of getting some numbers. So, you know, hey.
I'll speak on that too, Josh. The time that a city prisoner becomes a county prisoner, typically statewide, has been when that prisoner goes before a city judge, a municipal judge, and has an initial appearance, and he gets bound over to the grand jury. Then his paperwork goes with him and becomes a county prisoner. I think that was, since as far back as I remember, that's how it's gone. Lincoln County Sheriff has sent an AG's opinion request, I think back in April, and his return on his request stated to him that he could, it's not at that point, but they could still be considered a city prisoner up until they are indicted, and that's for felony charges. So, but in that email, Josh, that I sent out, I did get a response back from Will Allen, who is the attorney for the Sheriff's Association, who expressed some concern about doing that, and to consult, for each county to consult their board attorneys before making that decision, that there is probably, if other counties go to this, there's going to be some litigation and discussion about this at legislature, obviously, because that's quite a long period of time, depending on when the grand jury meets and when that prisoner gets indicted.
Even discussed putting that in the contract, because if you did that, even if we charge $20 a day, their charges would go up millions. So that, I mean, that's not anything we've looked at.
But the fact is, there's one county that responded back to me that does not house city prisoners, and that's Neshoba County. And I think I know they have one municipality, which is Philadelphia. Obviously, they don't house city prisoners. The ones that did respond back to me, and we're still getting some in. We didn't get all other 81 other counties, but we got about 25 to 30 responses back. They all charge something, and the highest is so far is 55. And our intended increase is over 100% increase in what it is now. Which,
So, Sheriff, let me ask you this, what would break you even dollar amount that we need to charge for this?
Well, I don't know about breaking even. The flow of the money, when, of course, we invoice each city for the amount of prisoners that they have per day. We do that on a monthly basis. And that payment goes back to the general fund. It's not something that the sheriff's office or the jail operates on. It goes back to the general fund. And to get our funds for the yearly budget comes from the Board of Supervisors. It's already set out, so it's nothing that we operate on. It goes back to the general fund, so that wouldn't affect me.
You know, just based on the numbers that you all ask us to run, when he's trending up towards 375 prisoners, closer to 400, you're looking at about $70 a day. And when you're down at 300, where you've been before, it's more like $90 a day. It's kind of an economy of scale thing. And, you know, no matter really what we charge the cities to do this, they're coming out way better than having their own jail facility, because it would, you know, just housing a dozen prisoners like we do in youth court, you're talking about hundreds of dollars per inmate per day. So,
yeah, I'm looking at the spreadsheet we had. It doesn't say what percentage of the jail population is made up by each city's inmates. I don't, unless I'm overlooking that number.
No, I don't. I didn't have that information.
Because
it's going to be a real small percentage because they get bound over pretty quick. I mean, it's just a matter of days. I mean, if you think about how many, you know, there's about half the residents live in the county and about half the residents live in the cities. And you look at a total jail population, you could probably assume about half of those prisoners originated from a city. But
51%
really,
county, 51% of our population lives in unincorporated
Well,
areas.
Well, you also have arrestees in there that are MDOC probation violators. You also have highway patrol who arrest and bring some to jail temporarily, DUIs, things like that, traffic infractions that it does not have to do with us. They use our jail. So I don't know a true percentage of each municipality's prisoner ratio.
it's going to be a very small number just because of the way we do it, It's a real small number.
Let me ask you the question what Jimmy brought up a little while ago about the bonding out. Would you prefer for them to go get transported to the city they were arrested at to get bonded out? Or do you mind still doing it at the jail?
I think the issue with, obviously, when they get bonded out, we release them out the front door.
Right.
And they are no longer prisoners. And I think the issue is, with the city of Pascagoula, they have a lot of fresh out of jail, public drunks, domestic violence, those that don't have a ride to get along, to get out of the area, just kind of walk in the area in Pascagoula. And I don't know, that's if they want to take a ride or not. They're back in the free world,
Let them go. Let them
They're
figure it out
not our
themselves.
prisoner anymore. They have bonded out. But as far as bonding out at their agency, that would require Ocean Springs or whomever to come back over and transport them back to be bonded. So,
It seems to me that just thinking about that particular issue, that would be one that the four cities would need to work out, right? I mean, I can put it in the agreement, but I never thought about that particular issue, but apparently it is an issue for Pascagoula.
once again, I don't have any numbers for that. How many bond out that do not have a ride? What area are they going to once they bond out? Do they want to go back or they want to stay?
Yeah, I think that's up to them. I
Yeah.
mean, once they're free and we don't have any
It's just,
restriction on where they're gonna go or what they're gonna do, let them go out the door. They can call an Uber, they can call a cab, they can do whatever, they call a friend.
We'll call family members, somebody's there to get them.
I mean, it's just adding a cost if we move them back somewhere else and taking that officer's time.
But that's
Just
the
to be clear,
information.
Sheriff, we are talking about the amount of time that a municipal prisoner, under the definition, is a municipal prisoner, which is typically to the bound over. We're talking roughly maybe a week or so.
Typically so, yeah.
Something like
I'd
that,
say
so-
less than a week.
Right. So
You
it's
know.
typically, all the prisoners in jail that have been there more than a week are typically on our nickel. It's the municipal prisoners that are there from arrest until they're bound over, which is typically a week, so.
And once their bond's set, the ones that cannot make bond and get released are the ones that are bound over and that stay. So, that's the information that I've gathered. Any questions?
Ask one question, please. I heard at least one issue would be this would penalize the police departments, especially budget-wise. We're hearing that this is paid for, however, out of general funds, which to me says that is not necessarily going to be a burden on the police department budget. Comment on that?
I don't know how the cities pay or fund their line item to pay for prisoner housing. I don't know how they do that. I think it's built into their police department's budget. And if they have a projected budget, well, that's budget time, just like it is for us, for the cities now, and they're trying to establish their budgets. And you have more than a 100% increase in their budget in that particular line item, which I've just, in my putting some math together, that would be an increase for the county's general fund if all four cities kept up with the amount of prisoners typically that they do, would be what, Brian, about $330,000 in addition per year.
If you went up by $30, it would be $338,000.
So,
For all the cities combined.
Right. for
and
all
in
cities
that
combined.
agreement, the first agreement that I saw was a baseline amount. I think different amounts for different cities. You had 250 for 250 or 280 for the city of Pascagoula, and a lower amount for the city of Goshen
Yeah, where
so
that-
far.
Where that came about was when we were meeting with the ADC going over the budget. You know, obviously, the conversation come up that the contracts were expired. So, you know, we said, well, it costs $100 a day, and, you know, but we knew it wasn't gonna go up that high. But they said, well, you know, if you do any type of increase, some cities, you know, will try to bound them over as quick as possible, where even though if you do an increase, you may not receive additional revenue, because I guess there's kind of, we don't have a real stringent contract, there's ways to work around it. So, that was the idea was, well, we'll just set a minimum, which is below what they should pay, and that way you don't have to worry about people trying to call the judge and get them bound over immediately to put him on the county side to make them not be a municipal prisoner. But after talking with you and talking with the cities, you know, there were some current concerns there, so I don't have any problem with pulling the minimum out, so you don't have to, you'll just be a straight per day as long as the board's comfortable.
You mean setting a minimum, like minimum 3 days paid?
Right, well, no, what we were talking about was we was currently getting let's say $100,000 from a city, unless we were charging 35. Well, if we were gonna go to 70, you would just say, if we normally get 100,000, make the minimum 200,000. That way you don't have to worry about people shifting prisoners around just to get around the contract. Apparently that brought up some other issues though, and, I don't think John loved it either, so, just in case they had real low numbers that year at the end, you know, that could cause some issues too, so. If that's a major concern, you know, as long as the board's good with it and Jimmy's good with it, I don't think we gotta put that in there.
I definitely don't want to do anything, well, I'm not going to do anything, but I don't want to recommend anything that's going to be detrimental to any city in this county. They're all county residents, or detrimental to any one particular police agency within the county. I think an increase, I mean, everything's gone up. Groceries have gone up, gas has gone up, everything's increased, obviously. And an increase is inevitable, but just a reasonable increase is what I would recommend at this time to the board. The climate of law enforcement in Jackson County, we work really well together. I don't want anything to make a budgetary decision on any one particular city, whether it be Moss Point, Goshen, Pascagoula, or Ocean Springs. That's going to prevent them from obtaining resources to do their job. You know, crime is increasing. Calls for service are still very steady, and I don't want to do anything that's it would hurt or hinder any other police agency that we operate within the county, whether that be state.
County, so to speak.
So-
We're still all one county.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yes,
and the
sir.
cities need to know that too.
Yeah.
If I can, go ahead.
I was gonna say, one thing that we did do, kinda is, Josh did ask me to go back and see how far back we could look, and just looking at a file in the office, found one from 2000, about 24 years ago, where the rate was 29 a day. One thing that Josh and Brian suggested is, we have draft agreements, is basically make them 4-year agreements rather than 10-year agreements, that the agreements follow the terms of the supervisors, maybe so we can look at it a little bit more often than every 10 years. So to try to maybe keep an eye on what are we charging and what is it costing the county. Try to look at it a little bit more often than every 10 years, because going back 24 years, there's only been one increase that I can see, from 29 to 35.
What year was that? 24 years ago?
Yeah, 2000, it was 29, and then somewhere around 2012, 13, it went to 35.
Well, to put it into perspective, and, you know, we're talking about one county, one community, one coast, all those things. That means we're all a part of doing certain functions. And to put it into perspective, to show how much the county actually subsidizes the cities in this area, it's a $10 million budget for the ADC. The city's currently put in 400,000. If we increased it by 20 to say 55, this total city budget for that would be 650,000. That is less than 7% of the total cost of the jail in the county, split 4 ways. That's an extremely good deal. And where they are now, they're not even paying 4%.
See that, even though that money goes into the general fund, it does get funneled back to the sheriff's office at budget time. So for me, it's, I would rather take the extra money and pay my deputies more than to be able to have more functions in the city. I want to be able to make it fair to where we can pay our deputies the going rate that all the cities are paying their police officers. We gotta, I wish we would have a way that we'd all work together on salaries where we're not poaching deputies or police
And
officers.
it's sad that it gets that way sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, if you leave a department, you leave because, you want to, you don't leave because of money. So if we had a way that we could all be competitive on the money, then, but right now it's not like that. So any savings that the cities, and I'm not beating the cities up, I'd do the same thing, but any savings that the cities are gaining by housing their prisoners cheaper is going to more salaries. To where if we could take that money, increase the prisoner stay, and take that money and give it to our deputies, then we'd just be on a level playing field as far as I'm concerned. So
And this is overall, for me, a philosophy of government.
Yeah.
Every level of government, the bigger you are, the bigger you keep getting, and the more the small levels of government want you to grow so they don't have to pay for anything. And then they spend all their money on the fun things, on the things that cut ribbons and the things that look nice and look pretty, and they blow their entire budget. And then when you get to the next level, the government's having to raise taxes and grow and grow and grow. So if we can find a way to mesh that to where the lowest level of government has the amount that they should, then the bigger levels of government don't have to continue to grow. And until we start pushing the responsibility back down, starting in DC, back down, it's not going to ever get any better. And our country's $36 trillion in debt. Our cities are much like some of those folks that want to spend every dime they've got and then turn to the county and let us spend ours. So we've got to share it some kind of way. I don't think we should go to 80 or 70. I think it should be some number lower than that. But I do think we've got to share the burden, because the hard choices aren't whether or not, someone decides to raise taxes just so they can have an extra $500,000 or $600,000, but how to figure out how to spend that money and not raise taxes. Sometimes folks forget that.
Well, and the unincorporated county is growing, as you well know.
Especially on the west side.
It's growing faster than we can keep up with. So what's happening is we're still giving the same amount of money. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not beating up the cities by no means, but we're giving the same amount of money to the cities, but we're able to do less in the areas that are growing. So I'm trying to shift that now with my vote to do more out in the county, because we've kind of gotten behind. So we need to pick it up a pace and I mean, you have a substation that probably runs more deputies than one of the cities that one of the city departments has police officers.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
What's the population of the city of Pascagoula? 21,000 now. I think they're running, let's say, a night shift, night 12-hour shift. They're running 2 supervisors and 4 or 5 patrolmen. I think a total of 7, so that'd be 5 patrolmen, 2 supervisors. In an area like Gulf Hills, St. Martin, and Latimer, which I think the population in that area at this time would be about 35,000. All right, we work that area on a night shift with 1 supervisor and 3 deputies. Same, so that much increase, and we get things handled.
You do it, but it ain't easy.
No, it's busy.
You make it happen, but it's not easy. So that's where I'm trying to shift the
It's busy and growing.
Yeah,
Busy and
I'm
growing.
trying to shift the focus to where we're doing more out in the county, because that's where the growth is. And so,
Well, I appreciate y'all. That's why y'all are in the legislative branch of government, and I'm in the executive branch of government. So I trust that y'all make the right decision. If I can ever answer any more questions regarding this or anything, just please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
So do we, are we needing to set a number now, or do we need to set a number by the next meeting, or?
I don't know that we need to set a number now, but we need to somehow bring this to resolution. The city of Ocean Springs and the city of Moss Point have been sent a draft of Pascagoula and Goche's agreements, which are identical other than the minimum amount. So if we take that out, Pascagoula's and Goche's would be identical. Pascagoula did have some issues with some of the language. It's not a big deal, but I do think somehow we need, and I'll look to Brian and Josh, we need to get all 4 cities to agree with the language so we're not negotiating 4 different MOUs. So I would propose maybe that I send an email to the 4 cities and say we need to all meet, get on the same page with the language of the agreement, and we don't need a number today, but I mean, things are rocking along at $35 a day. It's just how soon do we want to bring this to a conclusion? Now, the cities are trying to budget.
Yeah.
They are trying to budget, so I guess from that standpoint, I would defer to Brian and to Josh on when you need to give them a number.
It's the sooner the better. I mean, we're trying to, finish out our budget process, and I know they are too. So, the sooner that we can, doesn't have to happen today, but the sooner the better.
Yeah. And it'd be 2 weeks till we meet again.
You want to set a number? I mean,
I don't have a problem with 55.
55, I mean, if you're comfortable with 55 or in that range, I'm good with saying that number works for me. Are y'all, I mean, we can talk about it, see what y'all think, but.
And I would like to make them concurrent with the every 4 years with a new board of supervisors to be able to approve, continue, or relook at it. You know? So we need to update all those contracts.
They are, right, they are. Really, the only thing left to really do is put in a figure, and then there's some language, I don't even call it indemnity language, but language that if the city's responsible for something, then they're responsible, and if we're responsible for something, then we're responsible. Pascagoula had a little issue with that language, but indemnity is not something that's enforceable anyway, so it's a non-issue in my opinion.
We
Once
do
y'all
need to make sure
give
we.
us a figure, I think we can move relatively quickly to getting the 4 cities on the same page with the language of the agreements. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. They're MOUs rather than interlocals.
I would say to help Pascagoula out on the transportation part, somebody won't be able to be bonded out until they have a ride there to pick them up, whether it be the bondsman or bondsmans are known for that. They'll take somebody wherever they want to go if they make their bond. But wouldn't you agree, Sheriff, just make it to where if Ocean Springs is bonding out a person through our jail, somebody has to be there to pick them up before they're bonded out. They have to show up and say, I'm their transportation, and then they leave with them. And then that way, that solves the problem of people lingering from other cities in Pascagoula.
That's really more of a policy decision on the sheriff's department.
Yeah, that would have to be an agreement between City of Ocean Springs.
Yeah.
The sheriff.
I mean, we could get the 4 cities together and say, look, this is an issue. Y'all okay with putting this language in the MOUs? I mean, we're trying to work with the cities. Obviously, we kind of have the upper hand because we've got the ADC that they need. But trying to work professionally with them and everybody get on the same page here.
55?
Yeah.
Yeah, 55.
You want
55?
55, sounds good. I
Yep,
mean,
sure.
and you're talking if every city were completely even, that's about a $55,000 change.
I don't think we need a vote on this. If that's the will of the board, the vote will come to approve the agreement once the cities are all in favor of the language of the agreement. We'll approve all 4 of them at once.
Okay.
So basically, it's been 20 years since this has been upgraded, so that's $1 a year. That ain't bad. That ain't bad.
Okay.
Let me have a final comment. why can't we use this as a stepping stone for someone to initiate some discussion about consolidated law enforcement in all of Jackson County? And I think everybody wins in that environment, really. Obviously, no
Totally agree
comments
with
from
you, Ken.
anybody.
No, I totally agree with you.
That would take a lot of work, wouldn't it, Sheriff?
You'd have to find 4 police chiefs and a sheriff that would agree to all
That would probably take some blood pressure medicine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree with it, too.
Yeah.
But I mean, in theory, that would be the most efficient way.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could, it's like school districts, you know, everyone says that less school districts is a more efficient way to do it, but you can't find 2 that want to merge.
Right.
True.
There was a suggestion brought up about consolidating insurance amongst the county and the cities, just like we've tried to consolidate solid waste pickup.
Yep.
Whether those type of things can ultimately come to fruition, we're willing to work on them if that ever comes up.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
all right, so finance.
Good morning. The first item I have is the order approving the claims docket.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cumbus, second by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and the last item I have is the resolution authorizing the interfund loans for fiscal year September 30th, 2024.
Motion by Mr. Taylor,
Second.
second by Mr. Morris. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, inventory control.
Good morning. The first item I have is a resolution authorizing a trade with the city of Pascagoula.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Morris,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Cumbest. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries.
The second item is a resolution authorizing a transfer of 2 Holland tractors to the city of Ocean Springs.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Cumbest. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. All right, thanks. Planning.
Good morning. The item I have is the July Planning Commission recommendations.
So moved.
We've got a motion by Mr. Cumbest.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morris.
Any discussion? Anything stand out on there, Marcus, that we need to?
Not this past month.
Huh?
Not this past month.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. O'Neill.
Good morning.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I'm going to give y'all a brief update on 15 projects that are either under construction or about to go under construction or in some process of right-of-way acquisition. I'm going to run through them pretty fast, so if anybody has any questions, just slow me down and let me know. But the first project is the Roy Cumbest Bridge replacement. Y'all approved the actual contract for construction this morning. That is a $27,471,000 project, which is being funded through ERBR funds. Neil Schaefer is the engineer. They're hoping to get started late this month or the first of next month. Have no idea on road closure yet, if or when that's coming.
So you're gonna be able to give the schools?
Yes, plenty of
enough
time, plenty of time.
Lead time, okay.
The next project is the Graveling Road Bridge Replacement Project. And that project is under construction. That's a $6,511,000 project funded through the ERBR funds. The engineer is Batson and Brown, and we're about 51% complete on that project. They made 2 big pours last week, looked good. No problem.
All I'm hearing are compliments on the quality and appearance of the work.
They seem to be doing really good. That's the same contractor that's gonna get Roy Cumbus, so I'm thinking we're gonna be okay there. The next project.
And the ERBR funds are state funds, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Now, we had a little, we paying for the engineering on those out of county funds. The next one is the Daisy Vestry Road Bridge Replacement Project, which is 82% complete. That was $1,385,000 in ERBR funds. They did not get the guardrail up last week, or the striping. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks, I'm hoping that's wrapped up.
All right.
The next one is the Beachview Drive Phase 1. That was awarded to bottom to top construction. That was $1,498,000 in county funds. The engineer is Michael Baker. I'm hoping by the next board meeting, we have all the bonds, insurance, and contract before y'all.
So when can we start putting up some signage to let people know that we're fixing to start?
As soon as we get that done, then I'll coordinate with the contractor and we'll get our signage up on that one.
Okay.
The other one is the Saracena Road turn lanes at Avtech Boulevard. This project's been around a while. We received about $300,000 in state money for this project. And we're ready to go. Probably next board meeting, I'll try and have everything ready to go ahead and get y'all to approve awarding to bid on that one. The next one is the Bay Avenue Bridge in Moss Point. This is going to be a county-funded project. We've got 3 parcels of right-of-way and some utility relocations that we're working on now. As soon as we acquire the parcels, then we'll start moving utilities, and then we'll be at some point in the future ready to construction. We're also, with the county crews, we're up on the old Biloxi Road, clearing from LaRue Road to about 600 feet north of Cron Hill. This is actually going to be the road improvements themselves will be funded through state aid funds. We're clearing the right of way just so we can start utility relocations. That project probably going for about another month, and then we'll start the utility relocations. We've got the Greenfields Road project. The one's been hanging around a while, but I think we're finally getting some movement. We do have the permit. We got the permit.
We're good.
We're in the right of way acquisition now on that project. That project will be constructed by the county. Okay.
Who's working on the right of way? Is Carol doing it?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, we've got, I think y'all approved some plats, or getting ready to approve some plats on it. We've got to get those completed up. The next project I want to talk about is the Highway 609 Old Fort Bayou Road project. This is one that we've been working on for several years. We received some state funds, about $1,493,000. We had 28 parcels to acquire. For right-of-way, we've acquired 18. We've got 4 in condemnation. So we've got about 6 left we're working on, and I'm hoping to have that completed maybe by the end of the year. The biggest thing on that one is we're about, even with the money we've set aside on our side, we're still about $4 million short. That project's grown a little bit because we're trying to incorporate for the future improvements on Washington Avenue and some of that, so we don't have to do it again. So we'll get there, and we'll probably ask for some more money through the state or LPA funds at some point. The next one is the Beachview Drive Bridge repairs. This is a project the county's going to do and try and shore up the existing bridge on Beachview. I talked to them. They're hoping to they've signed a contract with their contractor, and I'm hoping to hear something in the next 2 weeks when we may be able to get started.
So the private water company has got a contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The engineer they've got on board has been good about keeping me in the loop, and said their contractor's getting everything together, and of course, we'll work with them when they start, and we'll have plenty of time to get
What
notice.
if they decided to do? Take
Temporary.
them off temporarily, place them, we do, then put them back? Or?
Yes, sir, that's the plan.
Okay.
We're gonna help them, give them something to tie to temporarily.
Okay.
We're gonna pull all the spans off, shore up the piling, put new spans on, and they'll tie back to the existing bridge.
Okay.
Joe, on Bay Avenue Bridge, I see you got utilities relocation. Who that come under, us or the city of Mossmore?
We got some power lines that have to be moved, but now when we get into water and sewer, that's probably, every job we've done over there, we've ended up getting involved in it, because they hadn't been able to do it. So we'll probably get involved in it at that point.
Okay.
The next one is the Pollock Ferry Bridge replacement. This is a county project on the east side. We've acquired all the right-of-way, we've cleared the right-of-way. We're waiting on the phone line to be relocated. And once it's done, then we'll be able to move forward with that project.
William?
We've done everything we can do up to this point.
Yeah.
So, the other one we have is the Shore Drive Bridge Replacement Project. This is in the middle of the Shore Drive, the Gulf Hill subdivision. This is a county project. We're in the process of acquiring the right-of-way, and then we'll start utility relocations. So I'm hoping maybe in 90 to 120 days, we're ready to go on a contract on that one. That'll be funded through county funds. The Bechtel Boulevard project in Ocean Springs, they're still working on engineering. I don't have anything, but the estimated cost is about $500,000 right now, Troy, for that sidewalk and drainage. Overstreet and Associates are the engineer. The Constitution Road Bridge project is one we've been working on a while. This particular road has washed out several times in the last 10, 15 years and trapped a lot of people in there. So we're going to take out an existing box culvert and put a big bridge in. We're in the right-of-way acquisition right now. The wetlands are complete. So once we acquire the right-of-way, then it'll be a matter of coming up with the money for the bridge. So I'm hoping maybe we can leverage some state funds or state aid funds on that one, or BR, whatever we can find on that one. Looks like about $1.4 million right now is what we're looking at. The Tanner Williams Bridge is one I wanted to bring to y'all's attention. This is a bigger bridge. It's equivalent to, similar to what we're doing in Goche on the Graveline. We're going to be going right-of-way acquisition and permitting now. We're looking at an estimated cost of about $8 million on that bridge. So really, you've got that bridge, and we've got the bridge here on Old Biloxi at Costall, the last two big ones that we have hanging out, if we can find funding for those in the next few years. And they were built about the same time, too.
Were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all these bridges we're doing over the last several years, what's the lifespan on them?
You should get 50. Some of them will probably see more than that on the roads that don't have a lot of.
How many more bridges would you say, other than the one on Tanner Williams and the one in?
Those are big ones. Now, we've got a lot of smaller stuff still out there that we'll do in-house, 3-span, 4-span, 5-span, precast.
So would you say
we probably still have 50, 60 that we need to be working on in the next so many years.
Okay.
Two projects that I wanted to bring up that I didn't think they were that far enough along, but I know it's Phase 2 on Beachview.
Right.
We're in the engineering side. That's going on pretty good. By the end of the year, we should have that next phase ready to go, which will pick up at Blueberry and go to Old Walnut, which I'll be talking to y'all about that in the budget hearing. And then the other one is the intersection project at what is that, Main and Biddick Evans down there.
Yeah.
We've got 2 design exceptions we're trying to get cleared up now, and once we do that, then we'll be able to be released for right-of-way acquisition. So that project's a little ways out, but I know that's
You
one.
have money for that, right?
We've got some funding through LPA, and there's a county match, and we're paying for the engineering too.
Okay.
And we'll have to pay for the right-of-way. And utility relocations may be a pretty big deal on that project.
That's what I figured.
So.
Yeah. Well, hey, while Marcus is here too, give me an update on Cypress Winds and Bell Creek. What's going on over there?
I'll tell you
Cypress
what, we
Creek,
met with their engineer, marked up everything that we found,
and met with the guy who was supposedly going to do the work to repair it, and there's a lot of work to do on both of those, Bell Creek and Cypress Winds. And they were supposed to get started last week, but I don't think they did when I went through there Friday, but I'm expecting any time for them to start fixing the drainage problems and the roads.
So it's all the developer, no D.R. Horton?
No, it's developed.
That's all the developer, okay.
Greg, they're supposed to start first week of August, so this should start this week.
Because if he doesn't, I definitely want to put a stop work order on anything else he's got going on in this county until those two subdivisions are taken care of.
They got a lot to do in there.
And I hope y'all told him that I'm ready to put a stop work order on anything else he's got going on till those two subdivisions are taken up, because this has gone on long enough, too long, and those residents are pretty upset about it, so.
Those roads are bad.
Yeah,
They're
so
really bad shape.
we stop him, and he takes all that time and goes and fixes those two subdivisions, and then he can go back to work. I don't care. It just needs to get done, and they need to quit lingering around, get it done.
Well, he was with us when we were marking everything up, so he knows what he's up against.
Okay.
Okay?
Constructive changes out there, you're gonna end up paying a lot more money, okay?
If we keep on the path of inflation, there's no telling what this will cost.
Projects are climbing so fast, but y'all see it. Y'all see projects come through here.
I wanted to point out, remember a few years back when the state had to get involved and start shutting bridges down statewide because the bridges weren't maintained? How many bridges did your department actually have to shut down?
I think we've only had to shut down 2 that we've had
We
major issues
voluntarily
on.
died, we figured those,
Well, one
the
of them-
state didn't come in and do it, did they?
No, one
We
of
did
them
it.
was the state, that was one on
Okay.
Seaman Road. We had to
Okay.
shore it up, and we've since replaced it. That's the only one that has been shut down by an order. The rest of them, the state said, hey, you need to be looking at these bridges, and we were able to get ahead of them before they
Right.
were shut down.
When you look at the hundreds and hundreds of bridges, maybe even thousands across the state, in our top 5 largest counties only having one, that's pretty impressive, and that shows good leadership from the road department and means that y'all plan appropriately. I just want to point out something too. This list that we just read through is around $57 to $60 million in ongoing projects that are happening now. And that's not counting the 609 improvement that's going to increase the safety, efficiency, and beautify the entryway through St. Martin and into Ocean Springs, which is probably going to be another $25 million. And if you look at what we just wrapped up in the last 3 or 4 years, just a few big projects exceeded $50 million. So you're talking $130, $140 million in road projects that were done to increase the efficiency and match the growth that is going on in our county. That goes a long way, and that says a lot about our road department.
Yeah. And we probably have
sure
another
does.
12 to 15 that I didn't put on this list that I didn't consider far enough along to be we don't know the funding, or we're working on engineering and just preliminary starting to look at other roads and bridges right now. So there's at least another 12 to 15 right there, not counting our everyday maintenance.
And that's not even improvement projects that mean more to the growth. It's just maintenance issues bridges that have to be taken care of. It doesn't matter about the growth. It's just infrastructure that has to be taken care of.
We have about, counting the cities, we have about 260 to 265 bridges in Jackson County.
Yeah.
And I'd go out on a limb and say that's probably more than any other county in the
Oh,
state.
heck, yeah, for sure.
We got a lot of waterways.
We cross a
we
lot
got
of
a lot of
waterways
water
in this
around.
county, yeah, for sure. All I can ask is that the motoring public and the citizens be patient with us, because construction don't go fast enough for me. So I can tell you, I get frustrated just like the people do. But,
Well, any construction project on a road or a bridge is impacting some resident somewhere.
we just need them to be patient with us, so, yeah.
Anything else I can answer for y'all this morning?
Joe, I appreciate that for sure, yeah.
Thank y'all. Thank you, Joe.
In the planning appeal, we've still got 25 minutes. All right, we got any action items? Supervisor items, Mr. Cumbest. All right, Mr. Morris?
Yes, I have one, a resolution appoint Miss Marilyn Fox to the Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College Trustee Board. I make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Morris, second by Mr. Taylor. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Taylor?
No?
I don't have any. Mr. Bossarge?
None.
All right. Well, it looks like that brings us to closed determination. We've got 25 minutes,
I think we can cover some of it.
Yeah.
some of it.
I'll
Okay.
move we go into closed session to determine if we need an executive session.
Second.
We'll get a motion in a second. Do you have a list that we can
Yeah,
read through?
just the two issues that I have are pending litigation, Jackson County versus George County / Single River Services, and then a discussion regarding job performance and some potential, I'm gonna stress potential misconduct that we need to, I think the board needs to take a look at.
Regarding a location of a business in Moss Point.
Is anybody in the back room back there?
Maybe.
Yeah, they are.
People leaving, oh, they are?
I saw them going by my door.
We might need to label that the auditor's office.
Yeah, no kidding.
They've been here for a long time.
For years.
I think they like it here.
I'm just trying to think of a way everybody wouldn't have to leave.
Yeah, we could go in Brian's office.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries.
Ready, Joey?
No action was taken in executive session.
Yep. You ready, Marcus?
Are we good?
Yes. Let me mention one thing before we start, and this is what we discussed before, that on this appeal, and I'll say this before every appeal, that if somebody wants the board to consider a document or a set of documents, please, let's give it to Joey. Joey may give it to you, Marcus, to keep, but we've had some issue with regard to the record on appeal to circuit court, so nobody showing pictures on phones or anything like that. It's got to be in the record. So if it goes on appeal from this board to circuit court, we have a clean record. So if anybody that speaks for or against this, please give the documents in addition to the supervisors who are going to make the decision. It's got to be given to the clerk, and either the clerk or Marcus will keep those documents for the record.
Even a presentation like your flash drive.
Right. So there's no confusion on what the record is if it were to be appealed to circuit court.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. On May 22nd, the Planning Commission heard the application of Gulf Pride Land Holdings, LLC, to request for a use permit, USEP 04-2024-00061. This is to allow the construction and operation of an RV park that consists of approximately 110 RV spaces at 13700 Sam Seymour Road. The subject property is zoned A2, agricultural residential, and C3, which is highway commercial. The surrounding properties are zoned the same, A2 and C3. The property is approximately 13.51 acres in size and is currently being used as a commercial laydown yard, contractor yard. The property is not located in a flood zone. The property is surrounded by several uses in the area, commercial, residential, and a lot of vacant land also around. Donovan Scruggs was a representative for the applicant of Gulf Pride. The Planning Commission voted 5-1 for approval with one member abstaining. We did have several people that spoke against the application along with letters that were submitted, and we had 2 people that spoke for the application, and the appeal was filed by Seymour Law Firm on behalf of the Seymour family, and I believe Tina Seymour is here to present her appeal. Okay, go ahead. You want to set that up?
I got it.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Tina Seymour Demoran. I'm a licensed attorney in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. I am the owner and founder of Seymour Law Firm in Ocean Springs. I am also a 5th generation Seymour in the land that is currently in contest. My father, B.J. Seymour Sr., Byron Joseph Seymour Sr., is living just right next door to the property. My brother, Byron Joseph Seymour Jr., who lives at the end of the road, who will be adversely affected, is my brother. And the land in question that we're talking about this morning was my grandfather, Samuel Howard Seymour's land. This was land that has been in the family since the 1940s. And the reason why we're appealing is that the decision did not take into consideration the harm that will be done to the surrounding property, including the widening of the road that was discussed in the hearing, that will infringe upon wetlands and floodplain property. I heard a statement earlier that there was no flood zone there, but we will show by proof positive that that is an untrue statement. That this decision did not take into effect the fact that in order to widen said road to the property, that it will involve an unnecessary taking of the land of private property owners, because Mr. Jenner does not own all the land that runs adjacent to that road. My father owns land that runs adjacent to the road, and on the other side, there's floodplain signs. It is floodplain on the other side. Further, that the surrounding areas are comprised and composed of not only commercial property, but residential, agricultural, forestry, wetlands, and floodplains, that a study to determine the effects of such a development that will affect the infrastructure, the drainage, the wetlands, the floodplains, and the neighboring properties has not been properly conducted, and should not only be conducted prior to the permitting and of said use and rezoning, but once that study has been conducted, will be seen as proof positive that said permitting of the request for use and rezoning should be denied in full. The next slide I'm not going to expound on very much because my brother is going to come up and talk to it. But in the last hearing, Mike Jenner, the owner of the property, his virtues were expounded. And they talked about how he always does top-notch properties and there's never an issue. Well, I beg to argue against that statement because there's alleged violation reports right now regarding Mr. Jenner, illegal dumping, dirt and debris from other construction sites, dumping and disposing of raw sewage from the porta potties, storing porta potties on the property, clean and unclean, and attempting to build up low-lying areas to prepare for that proposed RV park. My brother will talk more on it. He's personally seen it. Let's look at the site plan. There was a statement earlier and in the hearing in May that this does not infringe upon any type of wetlands or floodplains. If you look, there is a black line that starts at the northwest corner and goes at an angle east. Those are floodplains that the proposed area are going to be sitting right on top of. And while I understand the Supreme Court has decided that wetlands can be developed on, floodplains are a different animal and a different issue. Again, this highlighted area will be affected by the floodplains. Again, you see in this, the blue area on the property. The outlined area is floodplain and wetlands. And on the right-hand side of the road that he prepares to make every effort possible to expand upon, has not one, not two, but 3 Army Corps signs saying floodplains. Actually, it says protected natural area, do not disturb. These are 3 U.S. Army Corps engineer signs on the south side of Wilfred Seymour Road. Floodplains and wetlands will be affected by flooding. There's no retention pond or catch ponds on the current present or on the plans. All touching properties will be adversely and materially affected. The property zone A2 needs to stay that way because 90% of that is flooded during rains. It is a floodplain. But let's look at other properties that are close to floodplains. Cliff Barlow's on Stennis Road, which is north of this property by a mile or two. This is a picture of what happened when they tried to develop the floodplain behind the Highland Springs apartment complex. Guess what happened? The Army Corps engineers showed up, found them, and made them fill the ditches back to the natural state. Let's look at that video. This is video of flooding at Cliff Barlow's on Stennis Road. When they tried to develop the floodplain again, this is part of the property. This is the flooding that was just from a small amount. This is what the neighboring properties will be looking forward to if this development goes in. So the statement that it will not materially affect the residents and the commercial buildings around that area is patently false. Just take a look at this. This is normally grass.
Where is that at?
That's on Cliff Barlow's place on Stennis Road, which is just a few miles up, and it's floodplain around his property. It is. And it has more area for the water to go than the area we're talking about, because this is wide open property. Here's the rest, here's flooding. Again, this is an open field when it's not raining. There's not many open fields around this property, and it's right next to the Crane Reserve. So when that property floods, and the infrastructure floods, and what we learned during Katrina, during flooding, gas lines can break, sewage systems can overflow, and you're looking at the potential for sewage systems and chemical waste to go into a protected area for our sandhill cranes. Not to mention the fact that residents are going to be adversely affected from a health and safety standard. And again, the Corps of Engineers, Army Corps of Engineers, fined them and made them fill the ditches back to the natural state. They reversed their use and made them go back to natural state. This is my brother's property, Aaron Seymour. He'll be speaking in a minute. This is his property right now, before development when it rains.
What it looks like.
This is right behind the property that is A2, that he's trying to rezone C2 and put a lazy river on, and a pond for waste and other. This is a property east to west on the north side of the property flooding. The flooding goes into the property that's rezoned C3, not just the A2.
Just to show you how high the water gets in there when it rains. It's after a 4-inch rain.
The land you're looking at is going straight in behind the property. And that also is a direct straight line to the Sandhill Crane Refuge. Again, building these properties, we've all seen commercial developments when they come in. They don't build on flat land. They build with clay and with dirt, 10 feet or more. What that's going to do is elevate that and cause more flooding property to all of the surrounding properties, including the floodplain. Let you look at that one more time. This is the north side of the property flooding. This is not a hurricane. This is not a major storm. This is a heavy rain.
When was this?
That was August, 2000.
August 30th, 2021, the next slide has it. There are 4 inches of rain that came through. And we know hurricanes drop a lot more, and we know some of these storms that come around, they may bypass us, but we get hit with the rain. This was August 30th, 2021, less than 3 years ago. And that's not during any kind of storm center, nothing, no hurricane, no major storm.
So
3 to
since-
4
let me ask you a
inches of
question.
rain.
Since we've replaced the bridge on Seaman Road, has that not helped any?
It's too far away to affect it.
I'll touch on that.
But let's step away from the health and safety hazard and the fact that it's going to affect floodplains, material effect, and potentially affect the Sandhill Crane area and the residents and the companies that are already there. Let's talk about traffic flow. How many of y'all travel 609 going up Tucker Road to get to Seaman Road, Cook Road, Mallet Road in the afternoon? My law firm is right there next to the Jackson County Justice Court, and traffic backs up every day between 3 and 5 to the point where I have to take Rose Farm Road to get out of my law firm, and I have to instruct clients to take the back roads because there's no way they can cross that traffic to get in. If there is a wreck, which my husband, I wish he was here, he could testify, he has been hit not once, not 2, not 3, but 4 times rear-ended on that road. If there's a wreck, and that's in the last 4 years, there's a wreck, you might as well hang it up. It is backed up for hours. Now let's add holiday and weekend check-in and check-out of large luxury RVs, or not luxury RVs, that are trying to come off exit 50 and alternate routes at the same time that school buses are trying to get home. Kids are trying to get home with their parents who pick them up privately. all of Ingalls and Northrop Grumman are letting out at the same time that these people could be potentially checking in. And on Sunday afternoon and Monday mornings, guess what? We've got congested traffic again. There is a skilled nursing facility on the same road that they want to put the proposed development for the rezoning. If there is a medical emergency, there is not a field big enough for Lifeline to come in, which is what would happen if that road is congested. So if you have a loved one in that skilled nursing facility, I would ask, would you feel comfortable letting RVs back up on that road or break down or cause just normal congestion that the RV park causes? And if someone has a medical emergency, there's no getting them out. Because these RVs, this road right now is 15 feet wide, and the normal RV is 8.5 feet wide. So other than the unnecessary taking of private property that does not belong to Mr. Jenner, my father owns that land. They're going to have to take more of his land to widen the road. They're going to have to take floodplain land from the Army Corps of Engineers to widen the road. And if two of those RVs are side by side, or one's broken down, or there's any kind of congestion issue, my brother's not going to be able to drive home. He's not going to be able to go get groceries. He's not going to be able to go back and forth because his whole road is going to be clogged several days out of the year. There were statements made in the last hearing that this whole area is going to be a little more intense and a little more commercial than it is right now. My father owns several acres, around 14 acres, and then an additional 10 in that area. And I can guarantee to you right now that that land has been placed into an irrevocable trust, and we are currently working to dezone it back to A2 and residential, that entire chunk of land. My cousin was going on the mistaken fact that he could talk members of my family who inherited the property into zoning it commercial so he could expand his enterprise. Well, he's sadly mistaken, because after the last hearing, I personally made sure my father went and met with the law firm, and I got out of the way. That land of my father's is currently being filed in the Byron Joseph Seymour Sr. Irrevocable Trust. The land is going to be placed into a 100-year trust, and it will not be sold specifically to Mr. Jenner or any of his business partners. They stated that the plan reinforces the harmony of the area. Let me ask you, if you live less than 50 feet away from a lazy river with a 10 o'clock curfew, with children riding around on bikes and bonfires and music and fireworks and everything else that comes along with these RV parks and any other transient type area, do you feel like that's harmony? They talked about the use permit on review. There was a public hearing. I'll agree with that. It is not harmonious with the neighborhood. There's residents living on this land regardless of how it's zoned. People who have been living here for 10, 20, 30, 40, 60, 70 years. They said that because of the special circumstances that I-10 came through 24 years after my grandfather bought the property and put I-10 through and rezoned it C3 in some areas, that it creates a very in and out situation with a high level of traffic. That road does not support or promote a high level of traffic. The hotels stop where the road becomes 15 feet. It stops next to the floodplains. It is not wide enough, and that does not promote any type of people turning around in that area. There's portalets that are being illegally dumped, contractor storage yard. They're being investigated for illegal dumping and storing of construction materials. There's someone here, and there's several people here this time from commercial enterprises on that road who will be materially affected by it. There's 110 units. They talk about how they're not going to be right up next to each other. If you look at the proposed map, they are packed in like sardines. 110 units on 13 acres. This is going to affect school buses, again, and the residential and emergency medical vehicles. They talked about how the ATV tents and tarps will not be on there. I will personally tell you, I was living there on the coast and stayed with my dad a couple of summers when the apartments came in and when the hotels started coming. There are certain people who cannot afford an RV, but want to be close to that type of facility. My father has run off so many people just with a few developments who are camping, burning fires on his land, stealing from his catfish pond, stealing from his garden. Even with no trespassing signs posted and him being on a different road, his property is going to be right next to this development. The statement that everything my cousin does is top-notch, I stand here as a cousin and oppose that because I will drive by that property as is now, and it's a dump. There's dumped materials everywhere. There's portalettes that are dirty and clean, sitting there in open air with flies, and the smell is horrendous on certain days. That's not top-notch. That's a dump. In a hurricane evacuation, this was discussed in the May hearing as well, that it would be ideal because in a hurricane evacuation, all the RVs have to do is get off on that interstate. Here's the problem. Seaman Road, Tucker Road, Mallet Road, Cook Road. They're getting in the middle of that traffic congestion and causing a health and safety hazard. A safety hazard for families in Latimer and South Van Cleve to try to get around. So now they're trying to get their family and their possessions out of harm's way, and they're fighting traffic with transient RV owners who are trying to get back to where they came from. Not to mention the fact that Dina Holland in the last hearing stated that St. Martin could not send a school bus down that road because there was nowhere for a school bus to turn around. Let me say that again. That road dead ends on privately owned property that is not owned by Mr. Jenner. There is nowhere for a school bus to turn around. So how can an 8.5 foot wide RV turn around when a school bus can't? There's a senior living facility, apartments with school children right around the corner. My father is 86 years old. He is a senior citizen with heart problems and has been a double amputee since 1985. Next to the Lazy River plan, just a few feet away from his window, is my 52-year-old cousin who was born just a few days apart from me, who has severe Down syndrome and does not react well to stimuli and loud noises. He has lived there since he was born, and they're bringing this to him, or proposing to bring it to him. Crime will go up. Mr. Jenner's property has already increased crime on that road. There's been 2 separate theft events where people have come in and stolen catalytic converters off the RVs that are parked there. He can't even keep parked RVs safe. How is he supposed to keep 110 units safe with transient coming and going? Here's the problem. Here's the biggest thing that I just don't understand. Mr. Jenner owns hundreds of acres within a 4-mile radius of this property. It would be just a few miles up the road, and he could put this on any one of his other properties. Would not be a high congestion area, in an area that's already full of traffic issues and congestion. I say again, as a member of the Seymour family and as a representative for the Appalese, this should not be passed. Thank you.
My name is Byron Joseph Seymour Jr. I'm the 4th or 5th generation. I just got some more pictures handed to me by one of the business owners. Do I need to hand that out to you where you can look at those? It's on the property. It's in question. I'm not going to sit there like a broke record. She covered just about everything as far as the floodplain, but I will say one thing. 12 years ago, an individual I don't know if I can, I mean, he was fined heavily. Mr. Matanga bought this property where the apartment complex is, and took it upon himself to go in and dig this ditch all the way around it, put the dirt on top of it. Well, we got 2 miles of water, a mile deep. It starts from the last power line in the crane refuge, and it flows in a westerly direction. We've all learned to live with it. You can see what my property looks like on a regular flood. Now, some of these storms, we get 18 to 20 inches of rain. That was a 4-inch rain. We've already been flooded like that 3 times this year with 6 inches of rain. It's on record. I didn't even bother videoing it no more. I kept that one as a record, which was 3 years ago. That one right there is after they fill the ditches back into its natural state, after they find them and put it back. Now, I done a little experiment the other day. And I said, well, I'm going to try something. And I done it Saturday. I said, I'm going to see what all these businesses just north of the interstate, up to TNN Feed, the last light, feels about this coming in here. I have their signatures. Every business. Who wants it? Every business is all through. But the congestion that they have right now, and what that's going to impound on top of it, is going to hurt their businesses. And they all signed against it. There was 2 of them that didn't sign, and it was because the managers was there. Wasn't there. The apartment complex and the car lot across the road. Every one of them does not want to see it. And there's also consumers and neighbors and, you know, that buy stuff and goods from these people that also signed it that's against it.
Could you tell the supervisors again where these individuals are located?
Yes, sir. From right at the exit 50 on the north side of the interstate. I didn't go south of the interstate because that's going to be more congested, which it goes further south to traffic problems. I just done from the north side of the interstate on both sides of 609 up to the last light where TNN is. All the hotels are on there, all the restaurants, everything. They're all against it. Every single solitary one of them, because they know what it's going to do. It's going to gridlock everything. We also have 2 owners that are here that speak on that. But that video was on my property. When it swings around, it floods into my grandpa's property and my father's that they wanted to rezone C3. And in order for him to do that, he's going to have to fill it in, put about 6 foot of dirt to level it up. Not only that, the road that she talked about going into it, he's going to take the south side. The sewage line runs through there. The county's already said they're not going to do it. He's wanting to do this upon his own. Now, how's he going to go in there with that sewage line, put that road in without shutting everybody down on that road because of the sewage? I mean, this is a great plan, wrong place. And all he's going to do is when he builds all that up, he's going to dump water 4 different directions. There's a possibility of that road going in there to go under because all that was a branch. There's no retention ponds like the apartment complex. They have a retention pond behind it. They have a ditch going down outside of my pa's property that comes around. Any waste that comes off of that property, be it being from animals, that they have their pets there, or leaky vehicles, runs off into that pond and catches it to keep it from going anywhere. It's just going to create a bigger flood hazard that we already had before in the past. But that video that you were looking at right there is video that was taken with it in its natural state right now. And we get that and we learn to live with it. But this is going to, there's no sense in me talking anymore. Y'all got everything? Any questions? Oh, that's also another thing. The Army Corps of Engineers were notified 12 years ago about this. They came in and found him. Overrode everything. Said this is not going to be developed. It's too much of it's a big basin that holds water to where it can flow through where Joe Barlow and all of them live on Stennis Road at a normal pace to where the bridges that y'all put in won't go under. This right here in turn will make it flood again. And it'll probably put the roads out. But the Army Corps of Engineers had to be notified again because we left all this information 12 years ago with the Board of Supervisors, and they need to educate the Planning Commission because 3 years after that he tried it again. The Army Corps of Engineers stepped in and said if he does it one more time, he's going to fine him again. No, you cannot develop that. It's a floodplain. There's a big difference between wetlands and floodplains. When you divert the natural flow of water, you're violating a rule and you're going to flood people out. We'd owned this land a long time ago if it had been worth getting, but it's a floodplain. You can't build on it. You can't even run cattle on it. Mr. Buddy tried, and they stayed on that little piece of that ridge for 4 weeks before he could get them back home. We filed a motion again. It's up on the board. They're coming in here, and they checking all these violations, plus they're gonna show that this is part of a floodplain. It's on half, almost 2/3 of this 5 acres that he wanted to rezone C3. And it's gonna push water on all of us again and go higher. That's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
All right. Is there anybody else in support of the opposition? Okay.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is David LeBron. I own a business there at 14,000 Wilfred Seymour Road. And I just found out about this Saturday. So I'm glad that Mr. Seymour notified me, otherwise I wouldn't be able to give any input on this. So I just took a couple of notes just now listening to, I thought that was an excellent presentation that you guys just received also. Now, my business provides considerable tax revenue, and I'm sure everybody wants the best for the community as a whole, but if this goes through, that tax revenue is going to go away. And not just my business, the hotel for sure, and probably other businesses. And that's not even taking into account the traffic flow. I just went through nearly 6 months of revenue decrease, almost nothing, because of the traffic that we just had with redoing the lights there. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that. So that, in conjunction with seeing how that played out, I have no doubt that what they're saying is absolutely accurate. I personally own an RV, one of those big ones. It's a Class A, and it's broken down right now. So these things they break down all the time. I've gone and I've stayed in RV parks, and I tell you what, that's one of the reasons that I don't get it fixed, because these RV parks tend to not be the most desirable locations. I don't know how it was pitched to you before, but 110 spots, you know, I don't know what kind of revenue that would drive, but on whole, it just does not sound obviously I don't have access to the numbers. I haven't done that kind of analysis, but it doesn't sound like something that you guys want to be responsible for bringing into this community. My first thought when I was listening to Mr. Seymour, I was like, wow, 100 plus customers, that's potentially 100 plus new customers. But if my business isn't there, what good does that do? And we already have flooding issues. I can vouch for that, and I can also vouch for that odor nuisance. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it is very pronounced. So I don't have anything else to add, but if you guys have any questions on me, I'd be glad to answer them.
The last time, since you had these pictures, when the last time you noticed the flood, that area was there?
Oh,
besides, you know, August.
With this last rains. You know, we had a spate of rains for a week or so. That was about 2 months ago.
Yeah, we had 3 times this year.
So it's, you know, this isn't a rare occurrence. It's something you can count on. And if this goes through, and another thing, you know, I'm not a contractor or a construction person, but I have been involved in the development of many projects over the years. And I've seen not just my projects, how they can impact other properties nearby, but the development of other properties, they're all connected. And when something like this goes through, all of that, again, all that tax revenue that you're collecting there is going to be gone. You saw a decrease. I can speak to you personally from my business. The tax revenue that you guys were getting from my location was nearly cut to zero because just of the waiting for that traffic to go through, and that was a temporary thing. You know, what she's saying, I can tell you, I've had this RV since 2008, So I would consider myself a fairly experienced RV person. And what she's describing is very accurate. You know, you don't have to take a test. These things get up to 45 feet long. Anybody can drive them. There's no restriction. You know, I took upon myself to take some extra training, but I don't think most people do that. You know, I'd like to say that they do, but I don't just, it's my experience in the course of my lifetime that most people like to try and take the easy way out. Now, I was also shocked when Mr. Seymour was telling me about, and I don't know this other person, I hadn't known Mr. Seymour, I know his father, who I have a lot of respect for. He's been there for a long time. He was there before I moved into that area, and we've established a good neighborly relationship. I have a lot of respect for this person. The other person that's planning this development, it sounds like he doesn't have the best track record in a moral compass in developing these projects. I've only heard that from Mr. Seymour, but again, that was a pretty powerful presentation. I sat here and listened to along with you guys, so. But probably a little more than you wanted to hear, but I think I answered your question, sir. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
For the record, can you tell them which businesses you own?
There's two businesses there, One Stop Party Shop and One Stop Ball Shop. So I've been there since 2002. Don't plan to go anywhere. And I think we've been a positive contribution to the community. Thanks.
All right, come on.
Hello, gentlemen. Appreciate y'all being here and taking in all this information. My name is Denise Cuevas.
And I'm Angel Calavet. We own the business
The
on Wilford
assisted
Seymour.
living facility, Angel Oaks, located on 13625 Wilford Seymour Road. Back in 2019, I was before y'all due to some very concerning actions that were taking place on the property of question. At the time, the pictures that were given to you earlier with the dumpsters and the portalettes and all of this was taking place. I mean, it was unbelievable what was really taking place on that land.
And fires.
I purchased this land originally in 1999 from Michael Jenner's father, okay, who at the time was all excited about us purchasing the property to be used as an assisted living facility. Unbeknownst to me, years later, he would have to return to that house and go through his disease and pass away there. When I purchased the property, I loved the sereneness and the quality of quiet that Wilford Seymour carried, because that's what I wanted to give to my elderly residents. I wanted them to be in a location where they could be at peace and enjoy the surroundings of farm life. Since then, I have seen nothing but really the decimation of what was beautiful land. I believe after I approached all of you guys, I have paperwork on that particular meeting opposing the land use of dumpsters, because that land is designed to be, it's C3 land. And when he started using the property for dumpster use and portalette use, and I have copious amounts of pictures of him dumping, you know, all of this on the ground, burning building materials on the ground, plumes of smoke coming out of the property. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So we approached all of you and showed all those photos. And that day, we were awarded a denial. All the commissioners denied his land use permit to run and operate a dumpster business out of there. Much to my great disappointment, however, which I was totally taken back by it, that very same day that all of you honorable gentlemen denied that specific land use, we walked out that door right there, and the next thing I knew, he was given a permit by our very own Michelle Coates to allow him to repair his grandfather's house on that land. Okay? That's the God's honest truth. Yes. So I waited to see if that was going to take place, the actual repair of his grandfather's house. It never did. It was business as always. It was the continual use of the dumpsters and the portalettes and the continual operation of what y'all just had turned him down from. I contacted our current supervisor. I was told repeatedly, what can I do about it? What do you want me to do about it? Until I talked to Michelle, I called her, I have emails, correspondence between supervisors, Mr. Ketchot, zoning enforcement. Nothing was done. I was promised. I was promised that he couldn't have dirt and rocks leaving his property onto the main road, that he would maintain the little bitty road on Wilfred Seymour, for whatever he was going to do in repairing his grandfather's house. Holes, repeated holes put on Wilfred Seymour. Calling the county road department. Can you come over and repatch the hole? Because this is about the 5th time y'all got to come out and fix the hole. Sweep the dirt off the road. Meanwhile, I'm trying to run a good business at Angel Oaks, taking care of these elderly ladies and gentlemen. I just don't even understand how this sort of thing can take place, because as probably the highest taxpayer on Wilfred Seymour, I don't really feel like I've been represented very well. I really don't. Nor any of those residents living there. I just don't. And I don't fault the commissioners, because I thought, well, surely the supervisor, the planning department lady, the building department gentleman would take care of it, but it never did. And eventually what happens to people like myself is you just give up, because you go, there's greater powers than you that are going to make the decisions based on whatever and whoever they know, and you're just not going to be represented. So eventually I just gave up. I just figured, let me just try to get along with everybody and not ruffle anybody's feathers, and I'm just going to be quiet and take my seat in the back of the bus. Well, this is all new to me, all of this. I just basically found out about it this morning. I did get the letter of notification about the appeal. I didn't know who was appealing who, what was going on. I really didn't, and I thought, Lord, I don't know. I don't want to, I want everybody to be given the opportunity to run a business, start a business. I'm a businesswoman. Everybody should have the right to do that. But there's a right way and a wrong way for everything. And if it's impacting everybody around them, then you've got to step back and go, what can we do to where we're not offending or impacting other people that's in the area? Mr. Jenner, I know he says a whole lot, he promises a whole lot, but I'm here to tell you, standing right here before you, he is not the upstanding businessman that everybody wants to claim him to be, because he's not. He promises and talks a good talk, but does a very crooked walk. And frankly, I'm tired of it. And it's not fair to Mr. Seymour here, who happens to be family members. They're not strangers. They're not trying to be here to benefit themselves. They're only here to protect themselves. And when it comes to talking about irrigation and flooding, to go to that point, I'm here to say absolutely what they're saying is true. I happen to be living on property right directly next to the Army Corps of Engineers, that land that they have deemed for wildlife, because the flooding is unbelievable. I can't believe that in a small rain, not even a torrential rain, I'm wading out into my yard. I've got a septic system that's on a grinder pump. What's going to happen if I get a foot of water or 2 foot right over the ledge of that grinder pump? I'm going to have sewerage all over the place, and I'm running and operating an assisted living facility. That'll be shut down so quick, so I'm directly going to be impacted. It'll shut my business down, and what am I going to do with all the elderly living in there? Tell them they have to move out because your neighbor over here decided to put 110 RVs, which the density problem that presents is enormous. There's wetlands on both sides of him, okay? So density issues, I've got pictures of that road. That road, what y'all gonna do? Take 20 feet, 30 feet in front of my house, and then I'm gonna have a road sitting in front because we gotta widen the road to accommodate 110 RVs that are gonna be placed directly across from my assisted living facility? It's just absurd. That little bitty road, even with him doing all that whole dumpster thing, we have to jump over into the ditch and wait for him to come down the road with his dumpster trucks. I just found out he sold his dumpster business and sold something about a landfill for millions of dollars or something. So now we've jumped from the dumpster business, the portalette business, I suppose, to now we're wanting to do RV rental. And I've got a big issue. Is he planning on doing RV stuff based on the state regulations where you can only stay there no longer than a month? Or is this long term? Is it going to be like what is that called, Martin Lake? Right. Where people can homestead there for some indefinite amount of time, then we've got possible drug problems, and I don't think so. I think that's just absurd. Now, I'd like my partner here to show y'all the latest thing I've had to encounter due to Mr. Jenner's business.
We can't talk, one person can only talk or else it's going to
Well,
mess
I
up
just
the
want to
notes.
pass that around because I'm on Wilfred Seymour. He put in a storage business where you can store mobile homes and travel trailer, whatever, right directly to the right of me. I think y'all have got a map of back there of where I'm positioned on Wilfred Seymour. So now I'm going to be surrounded. I've got the storage yard to my right, or to my left if I'm looking at my house. And that fire on that video there, if y'all can replay it, took place while my mother was in a hospital bed dying. I happened to look out the window and I see this blaze of fire going on the corner of my property at a tree line. I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got elderly here. My mother is in bed. I can't even get her out of the bed. And we've got a blaze, explosions going on in the trailer. We're trying to evacuate the elderly because of this irresponsible thing going on in the corner of the flames. We had to wait for the fire trucks to get there, which took forever. We were standing in the yard. I've got my employees helping me get the elderly to the front door, thinking that we were going to have to hurry up and evacuate them out of the house, waiting for the fire department to get there to put the flames out. burned my whole front fence line down, just about, caught trees on fire, and never once did Michael Jenner reach out to me and say, are y'all okay? Did y'all have any damage done to your property? Never once. Cost me the repair my fence and all of the work I had to do to repair all the burnt wood on my fence posts, my fence boards and everything. And that's all going on to the right of me. So I'm going on, he's got the business going on over here and the travel trailers coming up and down the road that you can't even hardly move because the road is just a single lane little road that Mr. Freeman put in evidently himself years ago. When was that road put in? Because you've lived there for a while.
Okay, and we need to stay focused on what's being talked about today, too.
I'm staying focused. The road.
I mean, we've got to stay
Density.
on the issue that we're voting on today.
Okay, well, flooding, density, no room for driving, safety, impact of the community, everyone around there, especially fellow business people in the area, myself. That's staying on point. Everything that's taken place over time. Somebody's reputation of saying that everything's going to be great. What's our guarantee? That it hasn't been guaranteed before, Mr. Ross. It hasn't. Nobody did anything about it before. Should I say that we've talked?
Yeah, and there's never, that's the unfortunate thing. A zoning issue can pass, but there's never a guarantee that the person who takes over is going to operate in a way that we like.
How do you enforce
There's no way
it?
to guarantee that.
Oh, well, what, really? If there's zoning regulations that doesn't allow certain things to take place, if you've got commissioners saying you can't do that.
They will follow the rules within the guidelines, but there's no guarantee that they're going to be a good neighbor. You can stay within the rules and still not be a good neighbor. There's always the potential for that.
Well, then we go back to this. Y'all could approve this and stuff, and where's going to be the enforcement of that? Because we can go back to there's no good neighbor, and here we are, and everybody, I don't know what to do about it. I just don't think that's a good way of looking at things because it really does impact everybody in the surrounding area. There's obviously flood issues, density issues, many concerns for many in the community. Obviously, you have a petition signed with numerous names. So I sit here today and I plead upon everybody to deny his land use because I see potential problems coming down the road. And I don't think anybody here wants to have their name on that. Because just like the argument that was heard, the safety, the evacuation issues, these concerns, that's serious concerns, that's life and death. So I yield back. And
Ma'am, do you have a thumb drive of what's on your phone? I mean, there's no way for supervisors review that. There's no way for us to make that part of the record. We don't.
we can make sure.
If you want the supervisors to review that, then we need something that we can,
Yeah.
that we can put
Okay.
in the record.
We'll make sure you get it.
If that's gonna be part of their
Yes,
decision.
absolutely, I'll make sure.
Well, I haven't seen it yet.
If I may, my legal assistant's here with her laptop. I'll let them go in the break room and she can get it put on the thumb drive.
That'd be fine. But if you wanna show that to the supervisors.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anybody else? You wanna see about the people in support of the project? Is anybody here?
Talk to the developer's representative first.
Sure, yeah, that's fine. I do have a question. Is there a way that we can get a map, like a topography map or something, so that we can see the big area?
Yeah, I would love
Elevations
to be able to
maybe,
pull up a floodplain map.
Right, yeah, that's-
I would love to see a floodplain map.
Let me see if I can get it. The subject property is not in a flood zone.
Taking over here.
Is it on both? It's on both screens?
This is This is off the Jackson County GIS system that we have. And it appears that the properties, let me see if I can use my mouse here. I think these are the properties where the proposed development is going.
That's correct.
I believe that's correct. And they are not in a floodplain. They are probably in the X zone, I would imagine.
X zone.
And, but there is an area behind there that I guess is an extension of the creek, that Cypress Creek, that runs all the way along the new Mallet Road behind the properties there. And I could see if you were on Stennis Road or anywhere back in this area and you were taking a video of flooding, you'd probably see plenty of it. But the subject properties do not appear to be within a floodplain or floodway, and they're not in a flood zone either.
And Brian, I'll kind of point out that the area that is, I guess, in Mr. Seymour's property is what's called a floodway, which is actively a very, very serious flood zone.
If you switch it back, I've got a better view of it here, Brian. Okay, if you see that these two highlighted blue, this is a subject property. Now, all this area up north is a AE flood zone with a floodway, and this area comes around like this, which, like Brian said, you would see substantial flooding down towards the end of the road in that area. I've never seen flooding on this property here. And okay, and here's actually a zoning map which shows all this area along here, which is C3, community commercial, and this area up here is A2, which both of these areas allow this use by review, by use permit. So Donovan, if you want to.
Can we flip it back? I've got a presentation I'd like to show. Can you do that here? Can I do that?
Introduce yourself, Donovan.
Yes, I'm Donovan Scruggs, 317 Pine Drive in Ocean Springs. All right, thank you, sir. I'm here representing Gulf Pride Land Holdings, LLC, or Mike Jenner. There's a lot to unpack as to what has been said. First and foremost, there was a lot of statements regarding property being a flood zone, which I think we now see would say it's not accurate. Which we know it's not in a flood zone, but we even heard that the Army Corps owns the flood zone, and we know that's not accurate either. Everybody here can own property, and your property can be in a flood zone or cannot be in a flood zone. You can build a house in a flood zone. Drive down Front Beach in Ocean Springs or Beach Boulevard in Pascagoula or anywhere else, and you see that people build in flood zones all the time. But we're not in a flood zone. So I think that's very important to know. When you hear people say they spoke nothing but the truth, and then when you get up here and you dissect it, you realize it may not all have been true, which is unfortunate. I know it's a lot of family history with this property and along the street, and it seems like that may be a lot about what this is. The road is what it is. It's 15, 16 feet wide. It's very narrow. Ms. Hollow may have said a bus can't turn around down there, and it can't turn around there now, and it can't turn around there tomorrow. But this particular facility is not going to be impacting the school system one bit. There will not be long-term residencies on this property. This is going to be a luxury RV park that operates similar to the one on Cow and Lorraine Road that was just developed down there in Gulfport, the Back Bay RV Park south of Lemoyne, And then in line with the one that you guys approved not too long ago in the Gulf Park Estate area. So, there are bad examples of RV parks in this county, but to automatically assume that this guy who's building an RV park with the lazy river and $1 million of investments is going to try to turn it into something that's not high-end is just speculation and incorrect. Mr. Jenner's not going into this prospect to lose money. He's not going into this to invite low-end or RVs that are in disrepair. The intent of this plan is to do a luxury RV park that is in close proximity to primary corridors to get folks out in the case of evacuation. Despite what people want to act like and say, both Tucker Road and North Washington are your high-end arterial streets. They are designed to move a lot of traffic. The amount of money this board has put into Cook Road or Mallet Road to increase traffic in this corridor is substantial. And while Wilford Seymour Road and Seaman Road and Tucker Road may have had issues in the past, what you guys have done over the past 6 years to improve that interchange is tremendous. I do go up on North Washington and frequent some of the places up there to buy goods and services. And you come out of Wilford Seymour Road, take a right, and go to that new crossover, and it's ideal. It's easy. Now, if you want to get hit, like apparently somebody's husband does, maybe try to take a left, and that's dangerous. It was dangerous. But the improvements that are made here recently make that intersection work much more fluidly. In fact, I don't think you can take a left anymore because with the way the turns are not allowed. So it does force you to go north on Seaman Road and come out. So, what may have been or what was, 5 or 6 years ago may not be the same today. Now, this project, as we said, is zone C3 and A2. C3 and A2 both allow RV parks as a conditional use. They're specifically allowed in this. And the Planning Commission voted 5-1 to approve this property. Now, the idea that this area is not commercial, I mean, this area, that's just not correct. It is a commercial corridor. It is a commercial property. It is zoned commercial. And if some individual want to go through the process of rezoning that property, that just affirms that it is zoned C3. It is zoned that way. You've got 2 hotels which are transient in nature. When I say transient in nature, I mean people don't live there. They come in, they stay for the weekend, they stay for however long their vacation is, and then they leave. But hotels by nature are for transient purposes. Same thing with the personal care home. You do live there a little bit longer, but it is not permanent residency. To the southeast of this site, you've got a boat and RV storage facility owned by Mr. Jenner. But that is, if you can't say a boat and RV storage facility is not related or in harmony with an RV park, I don't know what could be more in harmony with an RV park than an RV storage facility to the south of it. It makes good sense. Now, if you look at the red dots, those are single-family residential uses. Those are single-family residential uses that are in a C3 zone. Single-family residential uses are prohibited, not permitted, not allowed in a C3 zone. So Mr. Jenner could not come in and build a single-family home on this property. He couldn't build a subdivision on this property. It's not permitted. It is not permitted because the property is adjacent to an interstate. And I appreciate individuals who like to think that's feels like you're out in the country, but with about 50 to 60,000 vehicles riding by 24 hours a day, that's not exactly what I consider country living. The properties up there, also have billboards on site. Billboards are on site for one reason. the proximity to 50 to 60,000 vehicles a day on a highway interstate. Now, you can't have it both ways. You can't say I'm in the country and I'm not commercial, and then turn around and say, oh, by the way, I want a billboard, which I can only have in a commercial zone. It's trying to have have your cake and eat it too. It just does not make it's not accurate. When you dissect the zoning ordinance and you look at what's allowed in a C3 district, bars and restaurants, check cashing places, automobile repair, convenience stores, kennels, lumber yards, machine shops, machinery, tools, and construction equipment sales and service, which is actually what Mr. Jenner operates up there currently, you know. So, and obviously, I think the comment was stinks to high heaven or something, you know, it was not something that is considered harmonious with the area. This is an opportunity to actually get rid of that facility and put in a use that would be more in harmony with the area. Mobile home sales and service and multifamily residential. That's a lot of things that can happen on this property with not coming before you guys. A packaged liquor store, you know, a personal care home's allowed. Pawn shop. Tattoo and body piercing. There's a number of things that can be done on that property that may not be exactly in harmony with that area. My opinion is an RV park does have some residential components to it. I mean, you are in an RV, you are staying there for a week, you know, 2 weeks, a month. You are living there short term, and in my opinion, that's more in harmony than a restaurant or a bar that could be having folks that are just there for the weekend or for a few hours and then heading down the street impaired. The RV parks only allowed in a few uses, in a few areas. The A2 and A1 shows that they are allowed by conditional use, which is important because if there's a blank there, it means they're not allowed in that district at all. But the A1, A2, we're half A2, and then in the C3, you see the R there as well. So this is a area that has been identified by your zoning ordinance as being allowed as a conditional use or use permit on review. We went through the processes of showing that we are consistent with the requirements of a use permit. Had a public hearing. I do contend that the use is in harmony with the hotels. People come to a hotel on vacation. People would come to this facility on vacation. They would stay for a short term. They would enjoy shopping and things to do along the Gulf Coast, cruising the coast. They would enjoy all of these things, and then they would head back. The more reasons here, just it's not a special circumstance that was created by the applicant. I believe it's a special circumstance that was created by putting an interstate in the area. And I think that with the improvements you guys have done with Cook Road, you're making this area more attractive. In my opinion, the property is going to be ultimately turned into something much larger that is going to be consistent with a big box retailer long-term because of the zoning and proximity to the interstate. People look for, developers look for interstate interchange. That's why y'all did what y'all did on Mallet Road, was to lure in and attract out-of-town investors to make Jackson County the best it can be. And to act like this area is not in an area that is conducive to growth is just not accurate. This is the site that when I was out there here recently. Machinery, tools, equipment, sales, and service is a permitted use, and that's what Mr. Jenner is doing. These are the hotels that are located to the west of the site. Again, these are transient in nature and are consistent with the RV park. Personal care home is a business as well as the billboards. And this is Mr. Jenner's RV park. Oh, not RV park, I'm sorry, RV storage facility. This is a site from highway, the interstate, showing the billboards that are out there. These are uses along the intersection, which show the commercial character of Wilford Seymour. This is a multifamily. Multifamily is a R4 district that actually allows RV parks by right. Now, not that we're going to focus on misinformation, but this is a site plan that we are looking at. I'm going to show you a few things that are on this plan. First of all, in the northeast corner of this property is a detention pond. A detention pond, and I believe the county has regulations that say you cannot increase the runoff post-development that you had pre-development, meaning that if it's, the runoff is going to be consistent. And it's back there in the area where the property is draining toward. So it is there, and it will capture the runoff associated with this property. The ordinance requires 50-foot buffers around the property. Those are provided. The density, these lots are actually bigger than what the county requires, and we actually have more green space than the county requires. So if we're too dense, it's, you know, we're following the rules. I mean, that's what we're here to do. We're here to follow the rules, and if you tell me what the rules are, we'll follow them. We followed them. Now, what we have taken a step farther in that Mr. Jenner has, let me go ahead and get this, so I want Mr. Comer to make sure we're get our stuff for the record again.
Is that these two documents?
Yeah, they were supposed to be stapled together. My stapler didn't work. It's supposed to be one document that fell stapled together right there.
Okay, but both of these are included?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so you had it previously, right?
I got an email with this information.
And what I had provided to Mr. Comer is the commitment letter indicating that we will dedicate the 10 southern feet of his property, of those 3 parcels, to the county in the form of an easement or right-of-way for any additional or future expansion that's necessary. And that letter also has has a profile of the street that we hope to expand. The right-of-way out there is about 30 feet. The existing roadway is about 15 feet. We hope to extend from approximately where the hotels are all the way to the east end of Mr. Jenner's property, which is 1,500 feet. We hope to expand the roadway to at least 20 feet in width. So if a RV is standard 8.5 feet, then they would have adequate room to pass. Now, it was talked about how is the RV going to turn around. As you can see from this drawing on the screen, there's 2 access points. There should be no reason for an RV to have to go down and do a U-turn or anything else on the end of this property. There is a adequate way. If he misses the first turn, he's got the second turn to come in and actually make this route. And if a school bus wants to use this turnaround, I'm sure Mr. Jenner will accommodate the school and allow them to use that as well. When we talked about the, once again, the high-end nature or the luxury nature of this facility, putting a lazy river and a pool is a pretty significant investment. And it's not something that I think Mr. Jenner is doing to have a bunch of, 50-year-old RVs lining up on his property. He's doing this because he expects this to be a high-end development that he hopes he can, recoup his money from. So I do anticipate this being a very good and quality development. This is a kind of a zoom in on the conversation that I had regarding the easement. As you can see, that northern portion is going to be 10 feet, which gives you a total right-of-way of 40 feet. And then there's a profile of the street to the side that we're proposing that shows within the 30-foot right-of-way, we're going to put the, we're going to move the road, the southern edge of the road a few feet to about 5 feet to make that wider, and then redress that that ditch line on that south side. We met with Joe O'Neill on site regarding this. This was kind of the route he preferred. South side's got a bunch of power poles, and it would be not doable on the north side. So we're doing on the south side. This is just another little diagram showing the proposed improvements. Like I said, from about the spot where the hotel ends is where you have a decent amount of roadway. He is going to expand that to at least 20 feet for a total of 1,500 feet to get us a better road so that two RVs can actually meet head to head and have safe passage. The ordinances or covenants that will be included in this, a lot of RV parks, especially your higher end ones, have what's called the 10-year rule, meaning if your RV is older than 10 years, you cannot pull in here. So we're going to enforce this. Any RV deemed in poor condition is not going to be allowed to use the park. For the most part, stays will be limited to 60 days. We do understand that there are snowbirds that come down and may want to stay for a longer period of time. So there can be exceptions, but there will not be any permanent residency of these. Nobody wants that. It's just not a good idea. Rents
But pets mean no like chain pets in the yard or something? What is that? No tethering of pets?
Yeah, no, you cannot chain your dog to a tree outside
okay.
the place, yeah, I mean, I've dealt with RV parks on a code enforcement side, and if you don't stay on top of it, folks can stay there for quite some time. It's totally the responsibility of the property owner. But I mean, we're willing to put these this is a conditional use or use permit on review. So we're willing to put everything I've told you today into your motion to where we will honor what we're saying we're going to honor. And if we're not honoring it, certainly have Mr. Ketchot let us know. There was, the conversation, and I just want to reiterate about the evacuations during a hurricane. Most folks are going to get out of here when they know an RV is coming. There's 110 spots. The interstate has a traffic count of about 60,000 vehicles per day. I think that you're looking at Tucker Road, and North Washington has traffic counts approaching 30,000 per day. 110 RVs over a 2 or 3 day period is not going to be a drop in the bucket to that kind of traffic count. I think it's a false flag, and I think it has absolutely no validity to it. I mean, we can't live our entire existence down here on the Gulf Coast saying, well, what if a hurricane comes in? What's going to happen? We know they're coming in, and we prepare for them. That's what we do. We hope it doesn't come, but if it does, we either stock up or go north, and we do it in time. And I think that the same kind of common sense is going to prevail here. We think it's a good location. It is close to the interstate. That's where you want these. And I hope the board will approve our request today and let us have our RV park. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Don, on the density, I think when you first filled out the application, it was like, or for the planning commission, wasn't it like 80 lots, 90 lots, something like that? It wasn't 110, if I remember correctly.
Actually, Randy, I think it went from, I think it was 111 on our initial application, and we played around with it, got to 117. And then I think Amanda pointed out that we were bigger than we said we were gonna be, so we pulled it back down to 110. But I do think, it's always been north of 100.
Okay, I just was briefly reading the stuff a while back, and I thought it was like 80 or 90 in the beginning.
Now, I think it's been north of 100 the entire time we've played with it.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Anybody else for?
Eamon Mohedan, 1219 Monticello Boulevard, Ocean Springs. In regards to our RV park case and this RV park case, it just seems like in Jackson County, RV parks aren't controversial, and I'm not here to get too much into controversy. All I'm trying to say is, like, from a data-driven perspective, RV parks near major arterial routes tend to be more financially successful, and RV parks that are not near major arterial routes tend to not be as financially successful. The distance someone has to traverse through a major thoroughfare tends to be like, there's a direct correlation between how you have to traverse from a major arterial route and the profitability of the park, how successful it is. So by it being near a major highway, in theory, they can keep the prices higher, and that price ends up self-selecting out bad RVers but if it was like 10 miles or 12 miles, then that could be possibly problematic. So it being right near I-10 in some ways serves as a self-selection mechanism to prevent bad RVs from coming, because, like, believe it or not, RV parks near major thoroughfares can charge higher rates. You know, there's more attractions, they can market it better, all of those things. There's more interest, as like 60,000 cars are driving down I-10. I don't want to get into the controversy of it. It's not our particular fight, but from that perspective, whereas the other RV parks, you know, I don't want to get into it, but there are factors which seem like that this could be financially profitable for Jackson County, and it could be possibly financially profitable for all parties involved. And I know that there are other people who are petitioning against it, and they do have some valid points, but from a financial perspective and a zoning perspective, it seems like things are more or less in check. But I don't want to say anything more than that.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, I guess, Marcus, you can they can close.
If I could go ahead and do my closing statement. I've heard people get up and talk, and for one thing, the last speaker doesn't live around the area, has no financial say in the area, maybe passes by there a few times a month. So, in the last hearing in May, it stated on page 38, line 16, they stated that he will improve it to the best of his ability to make it wide enough to where it can accommodate traffic, school buses, and vehicles meeting one another. Y'all, I'm an attorney. That's lawyer speak for I'll try, but if I fail, I didn't promise it. Isn't that what he's already doing? I'll try, but I don't promise anything. I'll try to repair a structure that's been there since the 1940s, my grandfather's property. But if I dump porta potties all over the place in construction, it's not my fault. I tried. That's what I'm hearing more than anything. If I can pull up, hold on just one moment. Can I walk up to the television right here? I want y'all to look right here. You see that green space before the proposed RV site? That's my father's land. So let's start. Let me walk back over here too. See that part right there, the parking lot before the green property? That, in and itself, is where the road is so narrow, 2 school buses couldn't pass by each other right now. So how is he supposed to widen that road 20 feet from where that parking lot is to the white area without taking my father's land? Or going on the wetland that I showed you pictures of, the flood plain, where there's 3 signs from the Army Corps of Engineers. How is he supposed to widen that land 20 feet without taking my father's land? They're ours. this is, I keep hearing it's totally the responsibility of the property owner. He's not responsible now. We need to ask ourselves the question that was brought up, that basically we're living in a state of fear and we don't need to say, what if a hurricane comes through? I was a risk manager for a hospital system for many years in my compliance direction department. I had a risk manager work directly for me. You know, one of the things we had? An evacuation plan, and we were in Jackson, Mississippi. When I was compliance director for corporate management in Gulfport, that included Stone County Hospital and several nursing homes. You know what we had? A hurricane plan. If we don't plan for emergencies, we're going to have a mess. So yes, we do need to take into fact the traffic, the congestion, and the fact that these RV people are just like the people in Destin right now with shark attacks and riptides. They're still sitting on the beach. When the storms come in, they don't vacate because they planned for months for these trips. They paid a lot of money for these trips. They're going to wait until the last minute to evacuate because the storm might turn. Am I lying? Think about it. These RVs are going to be at the last minute when people are trying to evacuate the elderly, kids, people who don't know how to deal with a hurricane, who may have only lived down here, military families. Shall I go on? We have 2 business owners that have come in and said we're materially affected. One's already been materially affected by the improper care and upkeep of the property. One who said you might as well just shut my business down because nobody's going to be able to get in my parking lot. When you have luxury RVs stacked up next to each other, backed up onto exit 50 coming off. Yes, it is right off, but you're going to be looking at that right lane coming off exit 50, backed up with those RVs trying to get off during holidays, weekends, check in and check out. In the last hearing, they brought up the fact that they will allow people to stay up to 6 months. I'm hearing a different statement now, but in the last hearing, they said up to 6 months will be allowed. That is a long-term rental. That falls under landlord-tenant law, and I practice it and teach it. And I'm telling you now, if they domicile, they start getting mail or a PO box or something, if they're there, it falls under landlord-tenant, and it's going to take a while to get them evicted out. The fact that I heard someone say that an assisted living facility is a short-term facility is absolutely ludicrous. People stay in long-term care for years. Again, I know this personally because I was compliance director over 3 of the biggest nursing homes on the coast, and you heard from an assisted living facility there. Some of these people are there for years. Mr. Jenner, Mikey's father, was there for a long period of time. Can I ask y'all something? Can you please ask if Mr. Jenner's here today?
Is Mr. Jenner here today?
Me and Mike talked, and with the way him and his family get along right now, he thought it'd be best for him not to attend.
Let me reiterate what he just said. He's too chicken to face people on that road. So he sends his legal representative, which he has every legal right to do. I'm representing my father, who's 86 with no legs and was too sick to come. But let me tell you one thing. He wasn't here for the last hearing. He wasn't here today. This is not personal. This is not personal. He just will not face any of the people he's affecting. It's personal because people's homes are being affected. It has nothing to do with family dynamics. It has everything to do with a man who will not stand up and face his cousins, face his elderly cousin, or his uncle, his elderly uncle, his Down syndrome cousin, who are going to be materially affected by this. And you will have RVs turning against traffic, turning left onto Seaman. I know. I pull out of my dad's driveway every time, and if it's open, I'm taking it. Do you hear me? There's people merging off exit 50 onto the frontage road, Seaman Road, and people will turn. I don't care how many signs you have. People are going to turn against traffic, and it's going to cause wrecks. It's going to cause congestion. And there is a huge difference between RV storage and people living in 100 or more units of RVs. A huge difference. There's noise, there's smells, There's kids running up and down. I can go on and on and on.
Let me ask you a question. So the property where it says the total length 1,500 feet next to that borders the interstate,
That's my daddy's property.
y'all own all
That's
that?
not Mikey Jenner's property.
Okay, but y'all own all that.
My dad owns this section right here. And if you see that open field, that's my dad's house with his shed right up there. Above where it says 30 feet, that little open area, that's my dad's house that's running parallel to the interstate.
Ray, to answer your question, the problem is.
No, you can't.
Hold on, Don.
So Sam Seymour Road. Yeah, Sam Seymour Road.
So my dad's house is right here.
All right,
This
so,
is my dad's property, and this is my dad's property he inherited from my grandfather. My
Okay.
dad's property runs up and down here.
okay. So is that a platted road, Sam Seymour, all the way to Wilford Seymour? Is that a platted road, or is
It's
that?
a barely double lane road that's 15 feet wide.
Okay.
He proposes to widen it, but he's gonna have to take from where the Army Corps of Engineers signs are here, or my dad's property in order to do so, because he does not own all the property along this road. So there's gonna be a stretch where it's extremely narrow.
Yeah, I know that. Since I've taken over that area about a year ago, I've been looking at some of them roads around the interstate, trying to figure out how to improve some of them, even before this came along. So, but according to the road manager, we have right-of-way to widen that road to 30 feet if we need to. So, but we do have the existing right-of-way to do that. And if you didn't, you wouldn't have utilities down there. So, because the utilities wouldn't be able to go on private property. So we do have a right-of-way that goes down through there, because I'd already checked that out way before this RV park thing was ever considered, because I was gonna start at the bottom and work my way north, trying to improve roads as I could. You know, so that was one of the first roads. Of course, I always forget his name, one that worked at the highway department for years. Who's the guy that lives next door to the RV storage place? Mr. Freeman. Mr. Freeman, that was one of the first phone calls I got when I took over that area was, Randy, can you come help me do something with this road? And so I've been working on it, you know, for the last year and a half, since I've had that area. So, but I do know we do have a right-of-way to widen the road. Whether we do it or they do it, it don't really matter who does it. It's just, it's a long-range plan to improve that road, okay? So, but I've always been interested in that Sam Seymour Road, you know, because, I've been meaning to ask the road manager to look at that to see if that's a platted road, or is it still an unplatted road that hadn't been signed over to the county yet. So that's okay. So that answers my question. Okay.
But going back on the zoning, there are floodplains through here.
Okay. Let me explain something about a floodplain, okay? So you do have prescriptive, or you do have designated floodplain areas, okay? So, which means, just like you said earlier, when the apartments were being built, they were doing things in those areas and they got caught, okay? Because number one, you can't get a permit for that. The county can't even get a permit to maintain any of that. So as property owners, when you buy a piece of property, it's your responsibility to find out where the water flows. Okay, so if I'm looking at a site plan, and that site plan says, hey, this is a prescriptive water easement through here, well, then I'm not building my house there. I'm building my house on the highest part of the property, and then I'm probably elevating my house a couple of more feet above that, because there again, we can't drain water in this county like everybody would like us to, because you wouldn't want to spend the money to do that, number one. Number two, most of this stuff is protected to where we can't even get a permit to clean this stuff out. I have the same situations in other areas of my district to where I can't even get a permit legally to clean out the outflow. So where all the water comes down from a subdivision that goes out into a bayou, everything here drains to the bayous or to the Gulf. Well, this county can't even get a permit to clean out an outfall. So where does most of your problems end up? At the outfall. They don't end up, we could build super ditches through here. If we can't get in the outfall to make it flow out, and if you have a high tide or a storm surge, well, here's what it's doing. It's gonna back up, okay? So those issues in there, that was one of the first things that was brought to my attention when I took over that area a year and a half ago, and we looked at it, and it's all, I didn't even know it was all prescriptive / floodplain drainage areas. I didn't even know that. So, and I'm like you, I'm 5th generation, 6th generation here, and I patrolled that area for 18 years. So, I didn't even know that. So, but what I'm saying is that, there's a lot of things with drainage we can't do anything with, okay? It's just, it is what it is, and you've got to take that into consideration. When you buy the property and you build on the property, you got to take that into consideration. As far as wetlands go, we have no jurisdiction over wetlands. That's strictly the Corps of Engineers. So any project, it don't matter if it was a shopping center, it don't matter if it was a healthcare facility, whatever, it don't matter what it is, they still have a permit process they have to go through. All this might look good on paper, but you get a wetlands, you apply for a wetlands permit, you come in there, and they might say half of this property you can't use. So then that's when that developer makes a decision on what he's gonna do with that property, okay? Right now, all this is it's not set in stone yet, because as far as I know, there's been no wetlands permit. Is that correct, Donovan? Correct. All right, so there's been no wetlands permit. So there again, I've seen, this board has seen this process many times. They come in here with visions of grandeur, and then the next thing you know, half of it's cut in half because it's wetlands. And it don't matter if you clear that property before you get a wetlands permit. I promise you, those guys at the Corps of Engineers, they go back years of Google Maps. Google Maps is probably one of the best things we've ever had in this country, or in this county anyway. But they go back years on Google Maps, and they can say, well, yeah, you had wetlands here before you cleared it, so you're going to protect that. You had wetlands here before you cleared it, you're going to protect that. So just because whether this project gets approved or not, it still has more hurdles to go through other than us. So, and there's a lot of things here that we don't have any jurisdiction over, so I felt like this was a good segue for me to get this in before tensions get a little more higher. But so I want to know how Mr. Jenner ended up with this family property. Did he come? No, you attorney, you come back up.
My grandfather died in 2011, and there were it was an 18, more or less, acre property. And, hold on, I think I might have hold on. Yes, okay. So if you're looking, and this is kind of a sideways view, but my father's house is my father's house is right here. Mm. This is the 6 acres my father inherited, right next to his land. And then you go up to where the house was, and that's another 6 acres that my Aunt Jenner inherited. And then next to that, Glenda Borys, my other aunt, she inherited, which was my papa's barn and 6 acres. Mr. Jenner came in and acquired the 12 acres from my 2 aunts.
So acquire, you mean he bought it?
He bought them from my 2 aunts, his mother and his aunt.
Okay, so he bought the property from them after it was willed to them.
Yep, my grandfather had basically life estate deeds for all of them, so when he died, it automatically belonged to him. But my father had the money, he had the means to buy the land, but Mikey asked the family if he could use the property to store his trucks on. He was starting his new business, trying to get his feet under him. And look, I mean, I'm a small business owner, but my dad asked him and looked him in the eye, and he shook his hand and said, the reason why I'm buying it from my mom and my aunt, so it can't be developed, so nobody can put a hotel or something on it. Fast forward a few years. Handshake deals, I understand, are not legally binding, but that was the intent.
Nobody's word is legal and binding half the time.
And if I'd have been there, I'd have told my dad, just go ahead and buy it, lease it to him. But at the time, I wasn't there during that conversation.
Because see, on that same layout you're looking at, so across the street, it says Southern Scottish Inns. That's why I'm wondering who owns that property. Because it says Southern Scottish Inns on that other side.
So do y'all own half of it, or do you own all of it, or?
Daddy owns all of this and this part.
Okay, but
All of
across the
that.
street?
Across the street, there was a little piece of land that my dad owned because I had to help him with the deed when my grandfather died. But the majority of it is owned by another
So
individual.
a hotel could be built there, that's zone C3 also?
It is,
So a
but it would
hotel could be
it would
built there with no
It'd be a
issues,
very
yeah.
thin property in order to do it because of the commercial offset.
That's one of the reasons why I looked at that road a year and a half ago, was so that it would open up for any potential development in that area there, so.
What is the parcel between Gulf Pride and BJ Seymour? That little thin,
It's also owned by Jenner.
That
that's,
thin strip between Gulf Pride and BJ Seymour
Right.
is BJ Seymour. That's his 6 acres.
There's 3 parcels, I believe.
Oh,
that
that
make
piece
up
there?
the-
That may be owned by Jenner.
It's owned by Jenner,
Yeah.
all 3 of them.
okay.
All right.
Is there anything I might can answer for the board, or any more questions you may have?
I have one question for you and for the board, and I don't know how the board's thinking on this, but looking through this material, there are a lot of restrictions, there are some promises, and I don't know which way the board's leaning, but if the board was leaning towards granting the permit, we would need some type of listing as part of this conditional use permit of what restrictions and promises are going to go along with it. If that's something the board's interested in, one, you got to be for it. Number two, you got to be for some restrictions or some promises.
If the board's interested in restrictions, yes.
Correct. If the board's interested in restrictions, I'm just saying we've heard a lot and I've read a lot.
Right.
So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention for discussion.
And, Mr. Board,
Oh, right, come up.
That was the intent, McDonald's Grove, 317 Pine Drive, Ocean Springs. That was the intent of the letter that was provided to you. It says in there that we will expand the roadway to a minimum of 20 feet for that 1,500 feet. And also includes the additional 10 feet that we provide, that we plan to provide on the Jenner property. So those two portions are memorialized in that document, which I would suggest that you make part of any motion to approve, if you, hopefully you will do so. The PowerPoint, I had a copy of it, maybe it got with y'all when I handed everything out. But those covenants that are in there, you've got a copy of it on this computer, and I'll be happy to provide those to you. We can read over them as you make your motion. But the covenant, if the covenants are what you're referring to, no stays, no dogs tethered,
Just looking at it, it says Exhibit 1, park rules. It has site rules, permitted items, prohibited items, pets, RV policy.
Right. If you can make both of those part of your motion, if you like, and we will abide by those rules. Yes, sir. Or you can pull off that exhibit and include that in there.
And there may be additional ones that the board wants to consider if you are in favor of this, in addition to what's already been discussed. So just.
I think they have put a copy of the fire on this flash drive.
Okay.
So I think they want to make that part of the record. Is it the black one?
They're talking about the fire. Yeah, the fire.
The fire video. So just do that too. Yeah.
as I understand, there's 3 documents. One is we're talking about conditions. One is a July 25, 2024 letter from Mr. Scruggs. One is I guess, a site plan, and others exhibit 1 park rules, which is 2 pages or page and a quarter of rules for the park. But that's what I was discussing that has been presented to us so far.
Okay. I haven't seen those, assuming that's it.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that it, Marcus?
That's it, unless you have any more questions.
This is not an easy decision, I can tell you that now, because there's people affected, there's emotions affected, and it's just not an easy decision, but I am going to make the motion to uphold the planning commission's recommendation and allow this project. But Donovan, I can tell you right now, I'm going to be a thorn in your side during this development, and it will be done nice. It won't be a junkyard. And just for the record, Marcus is our planning director, and him and I took the Martins Lake Resort to court 3 weeks ago, and we got a judgment. They got 90 days to clean it up. They got 90 days to get rid of all the stairs, the coverings, the junk, clean it up, get the long-term people out of there. They hastily agreed to it, but they didn't have no choice. The judge told them to. So, but we took them to court, and that place will be cleaned up. And and I stood in on that court proceeding too. So, judge knew I was there for a reason and said, okay, we gotta clean this place up. So that place is getting cleaned up now. I don't have any other RV parks in my district other than that one. That's all I got right now, but we're gonna clean it up. So, so my motion is to approve the planning commission and allow this development, but I want to see competent engineering. I want to make sure nobody's impacted with any water, any flood waters that already exist out there, Donovan. And I just want to make sure that this thing's done right, but you still got a hurdle with the Corps of Engineers. So, because there's wetlands out there that's been disturbed, and just by the overview, and that's what I was talking to Jimmy about a second ago. So with these restrictions and anything else I can think of between now and then, that's what I want. Okay, and I promise you, gets out of hand, I'm gonna take you to court. Okay, so I've done it already, and I'll do it again. Okay, so but this, I don't say this too often, but this is a prime location for that. I know it's going to be an impact, but everything else in that area is zone C3 around this spot, and you just got to kind of go with the flow on the zoning, you know. And I know it affects people, and I get that, but the zoning's there for a reason, and we gotta go with it, you know. And so that's my motion.
May I ask one question on there's talk about widening the road. I'm assuming that would be widened to county road standards?
Yeah. I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, he met with the road, he met with the road manager and Mr. Scruggs, and then they filled me in on what was going on.
Okay. I just want to clarify that.
And the road manager didn't have a problem with it, and but it will be done to county road specifications for sure.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Bossarge, a second by Mr. Cumbus. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now, one other thing, Marcus, so I saw some photos on here that I'm disturbed with on the portalet side. Mm-hmm. I don't care if we got to call DEQ, Health Department, whatever. we need an inspection done out there immediate, because I've never been on that property, so I don't know. These photos were very disturbing. So get with whoever we got to get with, and if that's an environmental situation, we need to get it cleaned up, okay?
So, are we back to? So we've got a
Closed session, or
We can return directly to.
make a motion, we return
return
to.
to executive session.
Return
We
to
might have to wait until the camera can hear us.
Yeah.
They might be able to hear us, I don't know.
Hey, man, all right, good seeing you. All right.
North is holding the record. Same road, so that means we can handle the same load. Wow. All right, you ready to make the motion to return to executive session?
Yeah, I'll make the motion, we return to executive session.
Got a motion by Mr. Cumbus, second by Mr.
Hey, Matthew.
Morris. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.